So, welcome everyone. This is On Just Restart, and I am joined by Brandon from WhataboutNintendo. How you doing, buddy?
Hey guys, I'm doing good. Ready to talk about the things we have seen very recently.
Yeah. Well, we're going to be talking about Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. That's definitely going to be the bulk of discussion tonight. We had the Tokyo Game Show all throughout this weekend. I've been busy working, Brandon. I think you've been busy working too. So this is, I guess, maybe our first piece of video out on the internet where we kind of get into our thoughts on this, right? And there's still stuff coming out. There's been stuff coming out throughout today and yesterday, but we're gonna be focusing on that. Also talking a little bit about Monster Hunter Rise as well, because that was at the Tokyo Game Show. So we got gameplay updates on these two really big Nintendo Switch games. So we're talking about that. We'll also probably be touching on, unless I decide to skip it, probably won't. So we're definitely talking about it. We're gonna be talking about how Microsoft earlier this week bought Bethesda. And that's kind of a big deal. It's a huge deal, I think. But because this is a Nintendo podcast, we're going to be kind of going at it from the angle of how does this impact Nintendo. So we'll be touching on that as well later to the discussion. And, we'll probably talk about a couple other little things like Smash DLC and Direct rumors and stuff like that to start off the show. But that's basically the plan for tonight. How's that sound, Brandon? Yeah, I guess there's one more other thing we could touch on, and that's the Kirby situation. But I feel like that'll tie into the Direct rumors and all of that. So we'll cover that in the first 30 minutes here. But as people sort of filter in, I guess I'll kind of explain a potential change to the format of the podcast. I was just talking about it with Brandon before we went live. Basically, I'm going to try a little harder to have a more specific time that the podcast goes for. Sometimes a podcast could be like an hour and 45 minutes, but there are other times a podcast ends up being 3 hours and 45 minutes. So what we're going to try and do is be a little bit more rigid with that, I guess. I'm aiming for about 2 to 2.5 hours moving forward. And basically all that really means is that I'm just going to personally just make sure we kind of move on with topics a little bit faster, and that's pretty much it. So basically, if we're rambling about something, I'm going to put it on myself to kind of speed that up a little bit. But of course, we're still going to go to 2 to 2.5 hours, so I think we'll still have plenty of time to talk about most things. And yeah, that's pretty much what I'm going to try and do from now on. But if you guys have any thoughts on that or other ideas, for sure, let me know in the chat or in the comments below if you watch this after the fact. And actually, one more thing. Let me know if everything is sounding fine, everything looks fine. If that's the case, if we both sound good in terms of audio level and all of that, that'd be great. Let me know. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm going to let people kind of roll in a little bit longer. And while that happens, I want to talk about, I guess, some things that we, like the, I guess, direct speculation and Smash DLC stuff to sort of open things up here. So I actually made a video this week talking about, it was published yesterday, about the Nintendo Direct situation. So there's rumors coming out saying, oh, there might be a Nintendo Direct around the corner. I put out a video talking about when to maybe expect a Nintendo Direct, and my basic point was that given all the information we've been getting from Nintendo, we got this news this week from the Tokyo Game Show about Monster Hunter Rise and Hyrule Warriors, and then last week we got Monster Hunter Rise and the partner showcase, and then the week before that was Hyrule Warriors, and then there was the Mario Direct, and then another partner showcase and the Indie World showcase. That's a whole bunch of stuff. Nice. It's a lot, right? Yeah, 2 partner showcases in 3 weeks. So we got a lot of information, official Nintendo information recently, and I don't think Nintendo's going to follow that up with a Direct anytime soon. But that doesn't mean there aren't more updates coming, because I do feel like Smash DLC could be right around the corner and things of that nature. But before I give more specific thoughts on that, Brandon, I'm gonna let you talk now. So, what do you think of that? Do you think a Direct is coming soon, or are we gonna wait a little while?
Personally, think we're gonna wait a while. I feel like they've been announcing so much, and I feel like they announced it in this way to make it feel like a lot more, than it is, than if they just dumped it all in one Direct. I don't feel like it would have had the same impact as just dropping these cool announcements every single week. because these announcements are really, really cool, but none of them, I feel like, for me personally, are like those AAA like Zelda tier or Mario tier, other than obviously the Mario collection, but that was just remasters. So there's hasn't been something that would make for a super, super epic direct, but the way they've spread it out has been nice, and I feel like they don't have enough to then just be like, okay, here's also a direct talking about, like, I don't think they have enough announcements left for the rest of the year to have enough content for a whole direct. I feel like if they were going to do a direct, they would have had everything they're already showing in that, because I don't think they're going to have a ton of stuff.
Yeah, and I would say with the third-party announcements, all the major third-party announcements have been for 2021. Monster Hunter Stories, Monster Hunter Rise, Shin Megami Tensei 5, Shin Megami Tensei 3 Remaster. All those are pretty big stuff in terms of third-party support from Nintendo, exclusive games for the Switch, fun things with there's big fan bases for those franchises, and they're gonna sell a lot next year, and I'm excited for them. But they're all coming out next year. They're not for this year. We haven't really seen any major third-party announcements for this year at this point, and I think part of that is because, well, Nintendo can kind of get away with announcing something like a month or two in advance because of the first-party stuff and the rabid fan base. But for third-party companies, most companies in general need more time than that. So I just don't think it's super realistic to expect a third-party announcement for this year at this point. Then that's why we're getting announcements for 2021 stuff now, because they do need that time, right? I still think there's like Nintendo stuff that's coming out around the same time as Shin Megami Tensei 5 and Monster Hunter Rise, but they don't have to announce it yet, because as we've seen throughout this year, they could drop a Mario Direct. It's only like not even 2 weeks away from the release of the Mario Anniversary compilation 3D All Stars. Like, they did that 2 weeks. I think it was like, I made like a video like a day before, finally giving up on my September prediction for the Mario remasters, and then they're like, "No, you're wrong today, but you were right every other day before that. It is coming out September. Here you go."
That was crazy. Having like right after you were like, "Ah, no, guys, it's just too late."
Yeah, that was. I mean, it was
like, no,
unprecedented. Just unprecedented.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So, I think that what we're getting this year in terms of announcements will be your trailer drops, things like that, like the Hyrule Warriors announcement, like the Pikmin 3 announcement, stuff like that. That extends to Smash DLC as well. I do think that we'll probably see something really, really soon. I feel like we are due for that. There is that Smash ad that is expiring on the 4th, and we've seen in the past when those Smash ads expire, a new one comes up because there's another character to have a part of that promotion. So I do think that makes sense when you can take into consideration that we're kind of overdue, because the Fighters Pass Volume 1 ended with Byleth in January, correct? That's at least when the character was announced. And then we had a pseudo announcement for the next character, first character in Volume 2 in March with the March Direct. But it was a pseudo announcement because they just said it was part of the ARMS franchise. We didn't actually see gameplay of that character and what that character was. We saw that character in June. So I feel like now we're in September going into October. It's getting close to 4 months. It's more like 3-ish right now, right? I think at some point we should at least get an announcement for that character. And if you count the March announcement as the announcement, then it's been way longer, right? Like, I think they should at least give us a clue as to what's going on with that. We haven't gone, like, we've been basically just living off Fire Pass 1, like the first character Fire Pass 1 since March, in terms of, like, information on this pass. So I think soon. I feel like maybe next week, if not next week, the week after, we're going to get news about the next Smash character.
I would be surprised if they didn't talk about it pretty soon here, because I do think we're going to get it probably in a month or two.
Yeah, so they probably have to make an announcement soon.
Probably.
So, yeah, my expectations we get an announcement related to Smash either next week or the week after. That's what I think is happening. And then, that just kind of going back to what I was saying about when to expect a Direct, because Nintendo's just announcing these different things. We're getting announcements like this every week. We're getting plenty of information to sort of tide things over until, I guess, Hyrule Warriors comes out this November. Once that comes out, I think at that point Nintendo will start shifting gears towards their 2021 plans, because Nintendo's not going to talk about Breath of the Wild 2 until Hyrule Warriors comes out. That has a whole bunch of Breath of the Wild goodness, new cutscenes, new characters, new context on the story. There's a lot there for Breath of the Wild fans. We're going to be getting into that later into the discussion, but they're going to be focusing on that. That's kind of like Nintendo's big game for the holidays. So they're not going to start promoting the other things until afterwards. So I think the very earliest we can see a Nintendo Direct, which will be talking about 2021 stuff, would be December, at the very earliest. And it could wait. We could wait longer. They might have us wait until January or February. And it's also possible that they still don't go back to the normal Nintendo Direct. They still maintain this sort of style where they just have trailer drops and have partner showcases for a third-party stuff. That may be going on for a little while longer. I don't think it's forever, because I do think Nintendo will return to the traditional Direct because they still are using that branding. But yeah, it's hard to say when Nintendo will go back to it. I want to hope, and I think there's a decent chance they start going back to normal next year.
That's what I think. I think they'll... Well, I don't think they'll ever go quite back to how they were doing it. I think they'll still keep the partner showcases, and obviously they have their indie showcases, and then have the directs as shorter, more concise, mostly first party. And I mean, we've talked about it before, having the directs be focused on just first party and some big third party games, and not all the kind of smaller stuff that you would expect to see in like a partner showcase.
Yeah. It's like, do you think it's possible that we go throughout most of next year without getting, the Direct we're hoping for?
I think so, because I think they gotta talk about Breath of the Wild 2 sometime next year, and I think they're gonna talk about it pretty early on, because they like to hype up Zelda a lot.
What about the Game Awards?
It's possible it could be at the Game Awards. It'd be after the launch of Hyrule Warriors, so it would be pretty close though. So I wouldn't be surprised if they waited until a Direct to talk about it, just to have a little more space.
Yeah, it's tricky.
Let people play through that game.
Yeah, I want to believe Nintendo will have some sort of announcement at the Game Awards, because they had an announcement at the Game Awards like every year since the Game Awards has been in its current form. But sometimes that announcement isn't a big Zelda trailer. It's sometimes smaller. Last year we got Bravely Default 2, which is being developed by Square, but Nintendo's publishing it. And then No More Heroes 3, which isn't being published by Nintendo. Maybe Nintendo still has a hand in that game's development, or some sort of paid partnership there, perhaps, maybe. But the point is, it's not like Smash Brothers, or it's not Zelda, it's not Super Mario, So it's a little different, not as anticipated by as large of a fan base, right? I'm excited for Bravely Default 2 and No More Heroes, but it isn't Smash Brothers or Zelda, you know what I mean? So I don't really know what to expect for the Game Awards this year. I feel like there's going to be something from Nintendo, but I don't know if we should maybe expect a Breath of the Wild 2 trailer, I'd love to see that, but they can wait.
To say that would happen.
Yeah. But let's check in with the chat here, and we'll sort of move forward with this discussion. Hello there, DE Fox. Hello there, Brendan Stryker. Discount Leak. Hello there. Discount Leak said, realizing Sakurai isn't going to make a new Kickers game for years because of Smash. Man, that's yeah, he hasn't expressed interest in making a Kid Icarus game, so
yeah,
we'll probably...
I don't even know if he wants to do it. So
yeah, I hope someone somewhere wants to make a Kid Icarus game. So fingers crossed. But yeah, there currently are no real signs of a Kid Icarus anytime soon. So Lunatones added me. So nothing came of that Metroid tease in the Paper Mario trailer, huh? Yeah, yeah, it doesn't look like we're getting anything Metroid this year. I think you could perhaps chalk that up to us thinking it was a tease, but it not being a tease. And when it came out, yeah, I definitely hoped it was a tease, and I felt like it was at the time.
It really felt like a tease.
It really did. But at the same time, we talked about it. We noted, like, hey, look, even though I feel like this is a tease, it feels very intentional and all that, we've been burned so many times before. Like, that's been the discussion. I try to always make that clear that we've seen things where it seemed like it was an obvious tease for Metroid, and it's been nothing. I mean, Reggie has teased Metroid repeatedly, and nothing has come up. So, I think, you know, with the Paper Mario situation and that thing, it could have just been a nice, cute little thing. I think it would have probably been better to do Goomba or something like that, but definitely that Samus helmet created more discussion. That was in terms of getting attention, that was the right play. But I also think it led a lot of people to believe that maybe Metroid is around the corner. And it still could be around the corner, right? I think it kind of has to be around the corner. I can't tell you with 100% certainty, but I can tell you with a decent degree of confidence. I'm not going to give you a number because it could still end up not happening. If it hasn't been announced, it hasn't been announced. But I do believe a 2D Metroid has been in development for years and should be announced relatively soon. What is relatively soon? Maybe within 6 months. But that's a prediction. I don't actually know for sure. So I think it is around the corner, and maybe at one point it was planned to be coming out this year. I mean, if you look at this year, it's very clear there have been some delays. It's been more spread out. It's been slower. The pandemic has affected things. So it may have been the case that Metroid was going to show up, or at least be announced by the end of this year. And the year is not over. They still could technically announce that, right? Like, let's say they want to have Metroid come out in January. We might get a trailer for that in the coming months. Totally possible.
I mean, when they announced Samus Returns for 3DS at E3, didn't it come out like just like a
September.
month or two later?
September.
It was like,
yeah, I think
like 3 months. It was really close. It felt like at the time, like it was only a few months.
September 15, 2017, and E3's in June.
Yeah.
So it's like
so
a, what,
we
2 month
saw it in June, and then we got it in September. So it was really close after they announced that. So it's not like they haven't already, and that was not even in any sort of like, there's no reason to do that. They just decided to.
Yeah. So
nowadays, when they're already announcing things like really soon, it's not out of the out of the realm of possibility that it could be a December or January game.
Yeah. But maybe not expected.
It's just
either,
not super. Yeah, I'm not expecting it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's not super likely, but it's possible.
I do have a prediction. I've said this before. I think we're getting at least one Metroid game next year. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I'll also say I probably made the same prediction last year. So, but I feel like I have a good excuse, and that was a global pandemic. So if we get a 2D Metroid in the first half of 2021, considering the pandemic, I think it's conceivable that maybe its initial plan was for 2020.
Yeah.
Unless Nintendo tells us, we probably won't actually know that, though. But either way, I do feel like Metroid can't be too far off. We know for sure Nintendo is making Metroid Prime 4 because that's official information. And we have a lot of rumors that I believe are reliable that both Prime Trilogy and 2D Metroid are in the works or just waiting to be released by Nintendo when they think it's the right time. But just kind of moving on.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. Moving on the chat here, though. Yes, Michael L. Woo, Age of Calamity. It is exciting. Hello there, Birdman. How you doing? Yeah. Alex Embleton. Impa looks so much fun. She really does. I am very excited for Impa. Actually, Impa for Smash. Like, I felt like Impa has been a good candidate for Smash for a while. And considering this, Age of Calamity, it's interesting for a couple of different reasons, because one, because I go back in time, we get to see Impa as a young warrior, and she looks like what's her face? I forgot her name. Her granddaughter.
Yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't. It's not Pra. I think Pra is her like
It's
friend sister. I forgot all their relations and I'm just terrible with names. Impa's daughter. Let's just search that. I'm sure it's like Papaya or something. Paya. Okay. Yeah. So Paya, and then what's
I knew it started with a P.
What's Pra's? What is the name of the other Sheikah lady that was like Pra? Okay.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I got the name right, but what's her relation to Impa? Are they sisters or just fellow Sheikas?
I think they're just fellow Sheikas.
She's the older sister of Impa.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I had to.
And she shrunk herself down.
I had to re-jog my Zelda lore there. Forgive me for not being on point.
But yeah, Breath of the Wild, though, its release in and of itself offers a lot more moves for Impa just because they cover the Sheikah so much more in that game and give them so much more abilities. So she has so much more to draw from.
Right. So between Breath of the Wild and, I mean, now with Age of Calamity, there's a lot of moveset potential there. And with Breath of the Wild 2, I do think there is the potential that maybe Paya takes a more significant role. She has the exact same, but it's the same model with just like slightly different colors.
It totally is. I noticed that straight away when we first saw it. I was like, isn't that the same model? And then I saw people compare it. I'm like, yeah. It's the same model.
And I'm okay with that because they are related. I mean, she's like the next generation of Impa. She doesn't seem like much of a fighter, but in the footage of Hyrule Warriors, neither does Impa until you see her fight. You're like, whoa, she can fight. So I think they could totally pull it off where, let's say Breath of the Wild 2 takes place a couple years in the future, and the successors of the champions take a more significant role in the story, as does maybe Paya, and she takes on a role similar to Impa. And if that's the case, you have Paya playing a role in Breath of the Wild 2. So maybe we have a situation where the Smash DLC could encompass that. We've seen, it isn't every character, but a lot of the characters in the Smash DLC do sort of seem to relate to some sort of other game that's coming out, and it's a big part of some sort of marketing scheme there. Because Nintendo is picking these characters, and there are business reasons related with that. So considering that Hyrule Warriors is coming out now, and Breath of the Wild 2 is almost certainly coming out next year, I could easily see a scenario where Impa / Paya is the next, not the next, but one of the next playable Smash characters.
That'd be epic. I mean, I always want more Zelda characters, and Impa's a good choice. Yeah. Because it's if you're gonna pick somebody from Breath of the Wild, like obviously you got Breath of the Wild, Link's in there. You know, Zelda, not really a fighter, but then you got the champions, but then there's 4 of them. Like, which one do you pick? And they also Impa's kind of a better choice because they're not gonna come back, right? Like Impa is a recurring character in the Zelda series. All throughout, like they will use a Breath of the Wild design, if any, I think, but you have all the other Impas in the past, so it makes sense to use her because she's a recurring Zelda character. So yeah, she makes the most sense. So fingers crossed we get Impa for Smash Brothers, but we'll see. There's so many options. Javier Munoz added me. Phoenix Rising is a big title for December. It is a big title. It's a multi-platform title. It's being developed by Ubisoft. But you're right. I mean, it's Phoenix Rising?
You haven't seen it, have you?
No, I've never heard of this.
Oh, you gotta look it up, dude. You're gonna think it's sick.
What is it about?
Well, it's probably the closest thing we're gonna get to Kid Icarus. It's a lot like Breath of the Wild, but like with Greek mythology, and it's for all platforms, including Switch. It actually looks pretty good. Now, I don't know if I've seen like Switch footage, but the game itself looks pretty good. Yeah, like a week or two ago.
There's something else called Phoenix Rising, and it's all that's coming up.
You spell Phoenix F-E-N-I-X.
Oh.
Yeah. Let me see if I can put it up for you guys in the stream so you can see what I'm talking about if you haven't seen this game. I don't want to play footage. I just want to like show you a couple images.
Oh, I've seen like that.
Yeah, you've probably seen it.
Picture, but
yeah,
I don't know like anything about it.
You can kind of fly around. There isn't like a lot of. Okay, there's this one image here. I guess I could show you guys. That'll kind of give you a good idea of it. Yeah, so I mean, there's different terrains, but you see these two images here.
I'm watching it.
It is. Yeah, it's
gorgeous.
Yeah, the game looks great. I don't know how great it'll look on Switch, but the game looks great. It is coming to Switch as well. And a lot of people who played it noted it feels very, very, very much like Breath of the Wild. Like, not even a little bit, like a lot. This game definitely 100% takes absolutely a whole bunch of inspiration from Breath of the Wild. There are some differences. You know, you can kind of fly around. There's a lot of Greek mythology in there. It looks like a kind of a fun game, so I definitely have my eyes peeled for it. I might pick it up.
It definitely doesn't look like a Breath of the Wild clone. Like, I've seen some games where you're like, yeah, that's a clone. It copies the art style like a ton.
No, it more like copies the like mechanics.
Yeah, it just copies like the design.
If you see it in motion,
I guess.
If you see it in motion, it definitely, you'll be like, oh, yeah, that looks like Breath of the Wild. But definitely, you know, I think I have faith in this to some extent, because we saw what Ubisoft was able to do with Starlink. You could easily argue that Starlink was a great port on Switch. They could maybe do, I don't know if they're going to put like exclusive Zelda content for the Switch version. They haven't announced that yet, so probably not. But I think, you know, that it could be a pretty good version of the game.
Yeah, I think so.
So, yeah, that's coming out in December. Definitely another great game. Hopefully it's a great game we will be able to play this year. So, yeah, I'm definitely excited for it. Well, somewhat excited for it, because I don't know if it's going to be good, but I have my eyes peeled. Moving on to the chat, though, before we sort of move on. It's actually a fair amount of questions, so I'm going to kind of speed through this here. Beverly Carter added us. They can reveal Breath of the Wild 2 announced until January 2021 at the Smash Bros. DLC announced for Impa. Maybe. So yeah, my sort of hope is that we see a Nintendo Direct by January or early February at the latest. I think by that point, even if it's not a Direct, Nintendo's going to give us information about games. So the information is coming either way. It's just a question of how they present it to us. I have a hope they talk more about Breath of the Wild 2 really soon. They're going to have to make other announcements. They're going to give us more updates on Monster Hunter and Shin Megami Tensei 5. This may not show up in the Direct because Pokemon likes doing things separately, but next year there almost certainly will be another Pokemon game, and it is the 25th anniversary for Pokemon. And as far as anniversaries go, I would say the 25th anniversary is probably the bigger one. So probably they're going to do something with that. And there's this reports of the Switch revision coming out. If that's true, Nintendo's going to have a lot of games to come out around that point. Monster Hunter Rise is coming out to close out the fiscal year, so I feel like there's a lot of things happening around that early part of the year. Nintendo's probably going to have a series of announcements or a Direct by that point, and I'm hoping it's finally the return to the general Nintendo Direct, which we haven't gone since last year. We're going to be going well over a year for that.
It's been over a year.
Yeah. Cypherblade added me. I think DLC 7 will probably be a character that was not in Tokyo Game Show 2020 due to Sakurai Radio's silence on the event. Usually tells fans to tune into things to avoid spoilers and such. Maybe. I'll say that recently we also got some interesting information. Suda51 was asked about Travis Touchdown coming to Smash Brothers, and he said no comment. Now, the reason this is interesting is because in the past, he's talked about how awesome it would be to have Travis Touchdown in Smash Brothers. So, given that he said no comment this time, it might be the case that he's now under NDA and is not allowed to say anything. But it also might just be that he just decided to say no comment because he didn't want to speak on it any further. So, hard to say for sure, but he didn't say it's not happening, so that's cool.
Yeah.
But at the
It's
same
a little
time,
suspicious.
it is suspicious, but I'll also say we've had situations where people have said, "Oh, that's not happening," and then it happens. A great example is when I want to say was it David Wise said Banjo-Kazooie is not coming to Smash Brothers, and then a week later Banjo-Kazooie was announced for Smash Brothers. So you know, with these things, it's hard to say. Like sometimes people deconfirm and they've been confirmed anyway. Sometimes they say no comment and nothing happens. And sometimes they are saying it's favorable and nothing happens. So either way, you have to take it with a grain of salt. But I do feel like no comment is a marked difference in behavior compared to previous interviews. So there has been a change there. Could be circumstances. Could also be that he might be under NDA. So maybe Travis Touchdown's coming to Smash Brothers. I do think it's a good fit. Benjamin W. Adamy, you just hit 6,000 subscribers. Did I really hit 6,000 subscribers already?
Oh.
Really? That would be awesome.
You were, what, 5 away?
I was close. For those who subscribed, thank you very much for subscribing. Welcome. I really appreciate it. I'm glad that you guys like watching my channel. I'm glad you guys find it either entertaining or insightful or just think it's fun. I will continue to do more, and I'm just glad that we have a little bit of a, you know, community here where we can talk about Nintendo and just speculate to Kingdom Come and beyond. So, thanks. Danger Noodle added me. I'm surprised Capcom didn't announce a Monster Hunter Rise Special Edition Switch. Well, I think that could still happen. I think it's not, March is still a ways off. There's plenty of time to announce that. So they're going to be talking about Monster Hunter Rise for next few months. So I think there's still opportunity for that to happen.
They definitely haven't shown everything.
Yeah. The other thing to consider, though, is there might be a Switch revision around the corner, you know? And they may want that to come out alongside of it. They may wait a little bit longer for Switch revision, but there's a good chance that Monster Hunter Rise will come out alongside of it. We've seen Monster Hunter launch alongside other Nintendo revisions in the past. They may do that again. We've also seen Nintendo launch the Switch Lite with a big third-party game, Dragon Quest XI's. They basically, that's like the best version of Dragon Quest XI, built basically from the ground up for the Switch. It took a lot of time on that, a whole bunch of new content, and that came out along with Link's Awakening with the Switch Lite. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see, say, like a Skyward Sword HD or some sort of Zelda collection and Monster Hunter Rise come out with a Switch revision by March. Just putting it out there, especially with the Zelda anniversary around the corner this February. That wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it'd be great for that to happen. I'm kind of 50-50 on it. I'm not super confident, but I definitely would like that to happen.
Yeah.
I'd buy it.
Yeah. I see that Ronnie Fazio is correcting me here. It was actually Grant Kirkhope who said that was about Banjo. He's a composer for Banjo-Kazooie. So, not David Wise, Grant Kirkhope. Okay. Either way, someone who supposedly knew about what would be going on with Banjo said that, and Banjo happened. So, yeah. David Wise is for Donkey Kong. David Wise, I guess my confusion is that David Wise has had worked with Rare a lot, and Rare did work on all the Donkey Kong games, so the initial ones. So I guess that's where the confusion is. But yeah, either way, Banjo happened.
Well, David Wise and Grant Kirkhope, don't they work both at their new studio?
Do both of them do? I don't know if David Wise does.
Both do.
I don't know. Grant Kirkhope, where does he work now? Does he work for anyone in particular, or does he just get hired by different companies?
I don't know.
Neither do I. I'm not sure. I'll have to look this up later, but yeah, he makes music for games, and he's worked with Rare a lot. That much I can tell you. So yeah, he's worked as he works as a freelancer. There you go. Yeah, that he's a freelancer. So yeah, that's his status as of now apparently. But I guess now we should probably move on with the discussion. Brandon, do you have any sort of closing thoughts on a potential Direct or Smash DLC coming soon?
I don't think we're gonna get a Direct till like January. And as for Smash, we should hopefully, I think, get an announcement in a couple weeks. I don't know if it will be. My theory is that they'll just drop one of those Sakurai Presents, just be like, boom, here it is, or live stream it or something.
Yeah. I think they might announce it in advance, but only by a couple days. I think you were pretty much on the money, though. I'm right there with you. A Direct won't happen until early next year, and this Smash presentation is going to be announced within a couple weeks, and either it just dropped or they announced like a live stream like a day or two in advance. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens in the coming weeks. So moving on, though, let's cover the Bethesda thing first. I think we should get into that first, and then we could close out the final half of the discussion talking about Hyrule Warriors and Monster Hunter. So basically, Microsoft bought Bethesda, a power play, I would say, and it was, it was huge.
Literally.
Yeah, it's interesting because Microsoft lost their big exclusive for the Xbox Series launch. I say Series without the X or S because there's both of them. And that was Halo Infinite. That's coming out probably, I would assume sometime later next year, but they're putting that back in the oven to work on it more and make it better. So they don't have like a big exclusive game, they just have Game Pass. And a lot of people are speculating that, man, Microsoft is going to have to do something big in order to sort of one-up Sony here, because Microsoft and Sony always trying to one-up each other, because they are, even though I'm one of the people that says that Nintendo does compete with Sony and Microsoft, they do go at it from a different angle. And while I feel like Microsoft is slowly starting to branch away as well, because they're just trying to focus more on their platforms, like with Game Pass and xCloud, there is you do see how Sony and Microsoft have comparable systems and all of that, and there's definitely competition there. So they needed something, especially with Sony having such a strong lineup coming for PlayStation 5. And I guess this is the best they could do. And I feel like it's pretty big, especially if some of those games are available on Game Pass at launch.
Yeah, Game Pass is the big thing. They already announced Doom Eternal is on console Game Pass, coming to PC Game Pass soon.
Okay.
I wouldn't be surprised if that game gets a 120 FPS mode on Xbox Series X.
Interesting.
And S. Because I definitely think they could run it by like 1440p or something.
Yeah.
Because we're getting like racing games and stuff at 120 hertz too, and Doom Eternal is one of those games that just scales super well and can hit super high frame rates, especially on the PC. So I wouldn't be surprised with that if they definitely get Bethesda to come in and make like really good modes for their games, and eventually maybe even make them exclusive, because they commented on this somewhat. And I guess that's kind of the angle. I guess that's kind of the angle we'll be going to talk about it mostly here, because that's what it has to do with Nintendo. But they said a case-by-case basis, which I'm kind of leaning towards them not really making many exclusives. I don't think like the next Doom game, or if they make a Quake game or something, I don't think it'd be Xbox exclusive. Maybe like Wolfenstein or something, like a smaller Bethesda
I'm not sure.
title.
It's interesting because like Microsoft is not afraid to have some of their franchises be multi-platform. Now maybe they'll be more like timed exclusives. I can see that.
That could be true, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Microsoft just had one of their best games come out announced for Switch. The second Ori game.
Yeah.
That's owned by Microsoft now. So, Microsoft does publish games on their platforms. Not Sony, from what I think there's at least Minecraft. There's probably a couple other little things there, but I could definitely see a scenario where there will be a lot more Bethesda exclusives or timed exclusives, but I don't think this is necessarily the end of Bethesda games on Switch. Especially
I don't think so.
I feel like it's totally possible that that Microsoft and Bethesda will be entirely okay with having the big Bethesda games come out first on Microsoft, but maybe 6 months, a year down the road, they're like, hey, here's a Switch version. I had an alarm because I wanted to not be off track here. But, yeah, I think, you know, that's what I'm sort of thinking. I think it's not the end, but...
Yeah. And I mean, let's be honest, we usually see games come to Switch 6 months to a year later anyways.
Yeah.
So it's not really any different.
Yeah. I think, yeah, we're not going to feel that much of a difference. And I think one other thing we should point out is that all of their current contracts, they're going to follow through with that. So, for example, Doom Eternal still will come to Switch unless it's been canceled. If it's canceled, it's not because Microsoft bought Bethesda. It'll be for other reasons. But I don't think they're going to cancel. I think they're just taking their time. Honestly, I feel like at this stage, either A, it's coming out like December, last minute, and they'll announce it in the next partner showcase, or it's just being saved for the Switch edition.
Digital Foundry recently had an interview with two of the developers working on the DLC for Doom Eternal and who made Doom Eternal. And they asked about Doom Eternal on the Switch, and obviously they didn't say much, but they did say that it was, going well, and that the reason it was taking so long is that they just wanted to make it like really, really good. And they were doing a lot of optimization that was even like getting put into the other versions like PC and Xbox and stuff. And so essentially they just said it needed more time. But they did say something along the words of we'll see an update soonish.
Okay, soonish. All right. Yeah. I see that Ronnie Fazio added me. It's an understandable mix-up. I meant no offense by it. Yeah, I totally understand, man. Yeah, I actually would prefer it if you guys are always willing to fact check, because I don't know if you guys noticed, but whenever we have like some sort of fact or thing we're not sure about, we just look it up. I actually it's a pet peeve of mine personally when I watch podcasts way bigger than this one, from people who are really well known and they focus on just what they do and they get the facts wrong repeatedly. That annoys me. So
it does annoy me.
Totally fine if we get, and I think it's okay to make mistakes. Like I that's fine, but I love it when the truth is brought out, because I would prefer that to be the case. So yeah, if you guys ever see us make mistakes or that, totally fine. I encourage it. Yeah. But in terms of, Bethesda, Doom Eternal, I think like you said, Brenda, soonish, maybe. I really feel like it'll come out. I'm really thinking that they want to like showcase it with a Switch revision. I just feel like that's what's gonna happen.
Yeah, maybe. Or maybe they want to have it include the DLC, so they're working on making that work as well.
Yeah.
And they were like, you know what? It's already gonna be late enough. The DLC's coming out soon. Might as well get like an Ultimate Edition out for the Switch next year.
Yeah, like rebrand it a little bit.
They're gonna have to be selling it for $60, and the other versions are gonna be way cheaper, and it's gonna be on Game Pass, and there's gonna be so many other different.
Another cool little thing they could do is they could add some sort of like skin or something for Metroid or something like that. I think that'd be nice.
Dude, that'd be epic. And I mean, they do have skins in that game, unlockable skins and stuff.
Yeah, or maybe it's like even it's not just a skin like on the outside, but also like for the visor. Like it looks like you're wearing Samus's helmet instead. That'd be really cool, right? So I feel like maybe something that could happen. It's just more of a desire. I think it makes sense, but you will see what they actually decide to do. They probably, there's a good chance they'll just launch the vanilla version of Doom Eternal and they'll expect you to buy the DLC after the fact. But we'll see.
Yeah, they might do that.
Yeah, for sure. But I think the most significant difference that we'll see after a few years, once all the contracts sort of expire, is that Sony's not going to get that many Bethesda games. Like, I think they'll still get some, but I think there's going to be a lot more timed exclusives, and yeah, this hurts Sony more than anyone else, I think.
Yeah, because their relationship is definitely a lot weaker than Nintendo and Microsoft's is, because Nintendo isn't directly competing on them for third-party games.
I have a small hope that someday we see Game Pass on Switch. Or some sort of Nintendo platform. Amazing. It would be, right? I think maybe we don't. it's challenging because there are some games that are
Imagine
on
that
Game Pass.
value of Game Pass Ultimate. It's on your console, both your Switch and your Xbox. It's on your phone. You got game streaming on your phone. That's included in Ultimate. And you got it on the PC. So literally every device you have except unless you have a PlayStation, obviously. But you can take it on the go, either with cloud streaming or native, or if it was on the Switch, or if they decide, however they decide to do that on the Switch. But you have 2 devices for portable, and you have 2 devices for high-end gaming, whether you like console or PC. So you have all these options would be included in Game Pass Ultimate. For at the moment it's $15. Maybe they raise the price like $20 a month or something. But it's not that expensive.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind if Game Pass came out of premium on Switch either. Just Microsoft tax or something because it's on Nintendo, just to have that on the Switch would be really cool. Because I'm definitely thinking about picking up at least like the Series S, and having Game Pass. It does seem like a pretty good deal. The only Brandon, you have Game Pass, so how does it work exactly? Do you have to download the game to play it, right?
Yeah, you have to download the game to play it.
Okay.
Unless you're using xCloud, but that's their streaming service.
But you can delete the game. I mean, if you have Game Pass, you can always download it back, so it's fine.
Yeah.
I guess.
Well, not always, because games do eventually leave the service. Their first-party stuff will likely always be there. Like Sea of Thieves is still there.
But there's some games
it was one of the first games that's still there.
Like
but yeah,
Netflix.
certain third-party games, like Netflix, certain third-party games will cycle through.
Okay.
But your first-party stuff, your big major things like Gears of War, always going to be on there. Sea of Thieves is always going to be on there. Forza is always going to be on there. Unless they end the game's life. I think Forza Horizon 3 is coming to end of life status, because I think 4 is already out, and I think 5 will probably come out in a couple of years.
Okay.
But that's reaching end of life status, so they might drop that off Game Pass, because they're not really supporting it anymore. But for the most part, yeah, games are on there for a long time. You definitely have at least enough time to beat it, and you can probably come back to it later. But they're not always there.
Okay. I was only asking because the Series S has a limited storage, and if you just continually download games, especially when there's no price on them because you just pay for a monthly subscription, you can download 10 games in a day and be like, oh, I have all these great games I'm going to play eventually. Yeah. But then you run out of space.
If there is a game that you do want to buy, you get 10 or 20% off or something.
Yeah.
If you buy it while it's on Game Pass.
I have a question for you. So did you hear that about the expandable storage options for the Series S?
Yeah, they're $220 for the 1 terabyte expansion.
Mm-hmm.
Which, the price makes sense when you consider the class of SSD and the pricing. If you want to get an SSD up for your PS5, that's gonna be $300-400 for a terabyte, because that stuff is literally they're just now releasing things on PC that can keep up with it. When they announced that storage, there was nothing. PC didn't exist. They're just now, you can pre-order ones that compete with the PlayStation 5. So those are going to be $300-400. And so it's not like Microsoft is charging out the ass or something for this. It's I think it's a reasonable price.
Okay.
And it's going to be, the advantage of this over Sony is you don't have to worry about buying something from you don't have to worry about actually going and looking up and researching and seeing which one's the best one. You can just go to the Microsoft store and be like, this is going to work exactly the same for everybody. It's always going to work. And that's kind of why you buy a console, right? Mm-hmm. Over PC. You want it, first off, it's cheaper, but second off, everything's going to work. Everything's the exact same. All the games have been optimized. You don't have to go through a million settings and figure out how the game runs best on your graphics card and your setup. You don't have to do any of that. Everything's tailored to work perfectly. So that's why I like those expandable storage cards over just the PS5, just letting you use anything, because this guarantees that no matter what, I'm going to have the intended user experience.
Yeah.
It is a hefty price, though, especially when you
Yeah.
consider the Xbox Series S is $300.
Yeah.
I have no idea how they got that console. Well, I mean, it has a 500 gigabyte card or SSD in there, so I guess that's how they saved a lot of the
I
money.
mean, the Series S is weaker. It has weaker internals, so I think
but
that's part of it.
it's mostly just the graphics card.
I mean, they're probably
the
selling it
CPU
at
is
a
the
loss.
same. There's a little bit less RAM, and the RAM is expensive, so
And they also
maybe
have
it's just the
financing
fact-
options for these systems. Like Microsoft.
Yeah, they do. It's insane. Microsoft is by far the most consumer-friendly company right now.
Yeah,
out of the three.
and with Bethesda now on board, like Bethesda is definitely building up like their first-party games. Because now
It's
Bethesda,
weird seeing Bethesda
Yeah.
and Obsidian owned by the same company.
crazy.
Because
Like,
Obsidian makes games that are pretty much like Fallout games, but a lot of people consider them better, like better versions.
mhm.
Like Outer Worlds is like Fallout, but a lot of people consider it better. I really liked Outer Worlds, but I haven't played Fallout, so I have no comparison. But Outer Worlds was amazing. But yeah, they're known to make very similar types of games, so it's weird that they're now under the same
Bethesda's
roof.
definitely stepping up, man. But I have an interesting super chat question from Taker610. Thank you very much for the super chat. Taker610 asks, will Switch hit $249.99 once PS5 Xbox launch? That's a interesting question, and I think my gut is saying no, actually. Like, I think they could. I think that would be a strong move to make.
Because I do think that the Xbox Series S being $300 really is competitive, because the Switch is not a next-gen console. Like, nobody considers that.
Yeah.
But some people try to argue that it's not even a current-gen console, and to some extent it isn't. It's like this weird in-between. So
Yeah.
it's not even up to current-gen, and then you got this $300 box that is this next-gen, super small Xbox that's got Game Pass, and it's this new next-gen box, and it's
just the thing is
the
that
Switch has been out for years, and I think it puts a little bit of competition on Switch. Obviously, there's still going to be people, like, if they release the games, people are going to still buy it. But it is the first time. I mean, even before, like, when the Switch first launched, people were kind of like, oh, but it's the same price as the PS4 and the Xbox One. But those were systems that had already been out for years, and the enhanced consoles were coming out soon too. So it wasn't really like the new next-gen experience. Like, this is the first new next-gen machine that the Switch is not going to be able to compete with that.
But also
it's
the
same
games,
price.
the games aren't really killer. They don't really have any killer apps, you know, in terms of games. That I don't think there isn't like a Halo Infinite that's going to really push sales for the series, the Xbox Series. This
I think
holiday.
Game Pass is what's
PS5
really gonna help, though.
Maybe, but there's still all games available in other places, even though it is a great deal. Absolutely. And PlayStation 5, they have Spider-Man Miles Morales and Demon's Souls, which I'm really happy is a launch title. I really wanted that game. So I'm definitely thinking about picking up a PS5, but I might have to save my money for the Switch version. Or we'll see. I'm not sure, but I'm excited for everything. But I guess the point I want to make, though, in terms of like the Switch and potential price drops, is that, well, it would make sense from your point, Brandon, because they could better compete in that way. At the same time, though, typically when you see price drops for systems, it's reactive. They do that price drop because they're trying to pick up sales. And so far, Switch sales have been incredibly strong. There may not be a need to drop prices, at least if from a financials perspective. Unless they anticipate a significant drop, they're not gonna drop the price. They're just not gonna do it. I mean,
I feel like, though, if they did launch a Switch revision, now that there's a $300 next-gen machine, I feel like it'd be way harder to launch like a Switch Plus at $350. Like, way harder. Because you're launching this revision for your Switch that the only point in getting it really is the extra power, but you're making it more expensive than a next-gen machine. That's a hard sell.
I mean, yeah, it's going to be tricky how Nintendo navigates that, and I think a lot of that is going to come down to the perceived value of whatever the Switch version is. Let's point out that this is still rumor; it may not even happen. Take that into consideration. I do think it's happening though. So when it does happen, what's the pricing going to be on that, right? Like if it is, there have been more rumors and reports suggesting that this system will have some sort of 4K capability in terms of playing the games. I don't think that's going to mean like true 4K, but either way, like if this has significantly improved visuals, that that may be something they can market, and it is going to be like, hey, if you're paying $300 for this system that can barely do 1080p, if you can play a lot of your games on Switch that are at least 1440p or even sometimes 4K, that is a big difference. I do think that is something that they can push a $100 increase for. But to your point, Brandon, yeah, you look at the $400 price tag and you look at the PS5 and Series X that are just $100 more, then maybe not. Then of course the Series S is $300. But I think that's another thing to consider, that even though the Series S will be cheaper, what's going to be the perceived value of that? How is the consumer going to react to that? I think
it's really good because a lot of people haven't really moved fully onto 4K, and 1440p is what this box targets, which is a much more reasonable spec. So it's essentially running the same games, and it's confirmed it still runs games at 120 FPS. It's just literally the same exact experience, except not at 4K, it's at 1440p. Developers have already spoken on this. In fact, I think the Dune developer, and more importantly, the Dirt Rally 5 developer, who's making the 120 FPS mode on Xbox Series X, they talked about the Xbox Series S and how it wasn't really that hard to, when they started to move things over, to get it working even at 120 FPS.
That's exciting.
They just lowered the resolution. Some of the textures, they lowered the quality a little bit, but I mean, you can't really tell.
Yeah.
Because it's lower resolution, so you don't need as high resolution textures because you can't actually see them. And then sometimes they said they had to lower the draw distance a tiny bit, and it worked perfectly fine at high refresh. So it's not like the difference between the Xbox One X and the Xbox One.
It might be a situation where like the casual fan might look at Series S as a good deal because they'll see, oh, this basically plays the same looking games and it's cheaper, and I don't really care about collecting discs. I'd rather just have it all digitally. It's more convenient. So I could see how that might work for that.
Especially with Game Pass, you don't need discs because it's a service you use.
You buy the box just to have Game Pass on your TV. Right. That makes sense. Yeah. But at the same time, I'll say that the Switch Lite is $200, and Nintendo also doesn't seem to care about what other games are priced at, because you'll still find games that are priced $60 that came out years ago from Nintendo. Oh, yeah. And it's interesting because while fans and consumers may hate it, it does also sort of have this effect where there's a higher perceived value of Nintendo products. So I do think Nintendo knows that. So by lowering the price, you are also lowering the perceived value of the system. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, it's not just trying to get people to buy it. You want people to think it's a good, valuable product. And Nintendo, by maintaining their prices, they do that. They have a strong image because of it, and it's still selling right now. So even if the Series S does cause some issues, it may cause issues, but I don't think it's set in stone yet. And I could be wrong. I'm not a financials analyst, and I'll also say most of those analysts get it wrong anyway. So I think it's hard to predict regardless. But I think until they actually see a drop, I don't think they're gonna drop it. And I'd love to be wrong, because people can get it cheaper for sure. I think there's maybe perhaps a likelier chance that they release like different bundles of the Switch coming out for $300, but it includes a game. We've already seen that. So I think that's something they can do to kind of increase the value of that. That way people don't just all flock to Series S, which I don't think they do. I think it's also kind of like there's a little bit of a different like perceived value with what you get with an Xbox and a Switch. Like the Switch is portable gaming, but also put it on your television and you play a lot of Nintendo games along with a whole bunch of other little things. You can't get that experience regardless of which Xbox you get, or if you get a PlayStation. And Nintendo may be able to carry that throughout the holidays and not see a significant drop in their expected sales numbers. But I'll also say that when the Switch revision comes out, maybe then we could potentially see some sort of pricing adjustment, because I do kind of agree with you, Brendan, that it might be hard for Nintendo to get away with selling a $400 Switch unless it that has a lot of crazy stuff that makes it feel like it's worth the $400, you know? So we'll have to wait and see. And I think it's also worth noting that the Switch Lite is $200, so they do have a more budget option. I would love to see a scenario where the Switch Lite is $149.99, the regular Switch is $249.99, and the Switch Pro Plus whatever is $349.99. I think maybe that could happen, but a lot of this is contingent upon what the Switch revision even is, you know? So
yeah,
we'll have to kind of wait and see on that. But I'm personally not expecting, just to kind of finish up this question, I'm personally not expecting a price drop for this holiday because we haven't seen Switches go down in sales. Once they start trending downwards, then Nintendo will respond to that and do something about it.
My best guess is that they will drop it once the revision comes out, because I don't think they're going to want an expensive revision. They don't sell super well, and when you're focusing on something that's just an upgraded console and you're making it more expensive than a brand new next gen machine, I don't think it would be very popular, because people would be like, oh, I'll just buy the regular Switch, or if I'm gonna buy a new console, I want to buy something that plays new next gen stuff.
Yeah, and actually, I just had a little bit of a brain blast, Brandon. You might find this interesting, you might think it's dumb, so I'm curious what you think. And then we'll move on to talking about Hyrule Warriors. So, over a couple questions here kind of leads into what I'm saying. Or just points brought up. Benjamin W. Adam, there's a Switch price drop. I would say that confirms the Switch Pro. Yeah, I mean, I think I see your point there. Like, if they drop it a couple months beforehand, that could be a sign for sure. Hello there, Jugs McGee. How you doing? Birdman Adamy, I'm saving my money for a Switch Pro, but I'm still going to get an Age of Calamity 2. So, when I read that, I had a little bit of a brain blast, because it occurred to me that all the games that are coming out right now, they're not being directly by Nintendo, or they're like things that already exist. So 3D All-Stars, old games, just spruced up a little bit. Pikmin 3 Deluxe, it's an enhanced port that supposedly has been done for a really long time. And then Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity is being developed by Koei Tecmo. Zelda Team has helped out a little bit and overseen that a bit, but it's being developed by Koei Tecmo, not Nintendo. So what you'll notice is that there's a strong lack of first-party, internally developed games for the second half of the year. I feel like that's telling of something else. I feel like if this 4K Switch or whatever it is, if it's going to have improved visuals to a noticeable degree, something they could even market, then it may be the case that Nintendo is saving some of their internally developed games to showcase that. And I feel like this lapse in seeing those kinds of games could also be another hint towards something bigger coming out next year, Switch revision alongside a lot of these games. What say you, Brandon, to that idea?
I think it's a possibility, but I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah, we'll have to see for sure. But before we move on, do you have any closing thoughts on this whole situation with Bethesda being owned by Microsoft and how it can impact Nintendo?
As far as how it can impact Nintendo, I don't think it'll be too bad. As I said before, I think Microsoft them have a really good relationship. I think obviously they'll keep, as they did with every single other studio acquisition, they kept the games that are currently being promised. They kept their promises to come out. They didn't cancel anything, so I don't think they'll do that. And Sony might be in a bit of trouble, but for me personally, the fact that it's going to be on PC Game Pass Day 1, that just makes me even more happy that I own that service. It's such a great service.
Yeah, Game Pass is becoming increasingly more available, so who knows? Maybe a few years down the road we see Game Pass on all platforms, including Nintendo and Sony. You never really know. And to your point, I do think Microsoft, they're willing to work with other companies even when they kind of compete with them, and Bethesda may still do some things on their own anyway, and at least they're going to go through these final contracts. But it could also mean that they have more time exclusives for Microsoft and less Sony support. Absolutely. But yeah, I think we're pretty much ready to move on here. check in the chat real quick, and then we'll dive into all this Tokyo Game Show goodness. So Jugswiki added me. Also, congrats to the Miami Heat. They made it to the finals. Great. I'm actually a Miami Heat fan, so I'm really happy they made it to the finals. I'm gonna have to check out the game after the podcast, but they made it. Awesome. Beverly Carter. It's likely a brand new IP for Bethesda coming to Nintendo Switch for 2020 or 2021. I don't know about a brand new IP from Bethesda coming to Nintendo Switch. That'd be great, but I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so.
When was the last time Bethesda made a brand new IP?
I don't know, but also I doubt they put it on Switch first, especially now they're owned by Microsoft.
Yeah, it doesn't seem likely.
Yeah. So let's start talking about this Tokyo Game Show stuff. So I guess we don't. I feel like we're not going to have as much to say on Monster Hunter, so let's talk about that first, and then we'll dive into Hyrule Warriors stuff. It's not to say that I'm not excited about myself for Monster Hunter, it's just I just don't have as much to say on it. From what I saw of the footage, it was cool to see the gameplay. I feel like the game does look pretty good. There's a lot of moments that I see, I'm like, yeah, that looks like kind of like a next-gen looking game. When I say next-gen, I don't mean like next-gen, I just mean like
current gen.
Current gen, right. So there are some low poly counts and some textures a little blurry, but overall I think the game looks pretty good. It's still in development and it may look better when it finally comes out, and who knows, there could be a Switch revision where there's an even better looking version. But the game looks good. I just kind of seeing it in motion, it's really cool seeing the wire bug mechanic. It does look like you can pretty much explore everywhere within that area. There are no loading screens.
That was something I liked, because I wasn't sure exactly how the wire bug worked before, and like if there was limited switch you can attach to, but now you can just attach to anything in the air, literally just go anywhere you want. There's no like invisible walls or boundaries or anything, and there's tons of stuff to explore up there, and the world is even more vertical than it had made it seem in that first trailer. Like there's some, like you can go really, really high up sometimes. Yeah. They even have like the super wire bug or whatever that launches you like really ridiculously high. So you can find those around and reach locations that way. So that's cool. They're adding a lot more like exploration elements and stuff, which I like.
Absolutely.
Most of what I like have to comment on would just be like technical things, because I was like paying attention to it and like just looking, because I'm really interested in the first RE Engine game on Switch. Like that, the RE Engine, obviously this isn't the full RE Engine. This is definitely I don't want to say dumbed down, but scaled down. There you go, scaled down version of the RE Engine. But it's still the RE Engine nonetheless, and that is a very much like, it was built to scale into the next generation. It was built to really maximize the PS4, but also built to go even, to next gen with the PS5 and Xbox Series. So seeing it on Switch is great, and there's a lot of different things. I'm like, oh yeah, that's something that RE Engine does really well.
Yeah,
like,
there's some advanced techniques being used. That I don't know.
I really like,
things, but I could see. It's like like I said, it looks
their material
like a
work
generation game.
Yeah, because they use I don't want to get too technical, guys. I want to. I just feel like I don't know if people want to hear me get real technical. But they over pressure on me now. But they 61. Use goddamn Pbr Textures, which are react properly to light. They have a proper like material. Have you ever seen like Unreal Engine 4 like demos for materials and different things?
Sure.
And then, at rock looks like rock, and stone looks like stone, and cloth looks like cloth. It's using like Pbr textures. A lot of that's down to lighting and textures. Like I noticed the textures were actually really good for the most part.
Yeah, unless they decide
some of the more dynamic.
Yeah.
Yeah, some more dynamic objects like your Palamute, when you're running around, some of the textures on them are kind of low resolution.
Okay.
But for like the world itself, it was nice, and there was screen space reflections, which were nice. Although the RE Engine doesn't handle them very well, but I don't think the Switch could do them very well in the first place. So I mean, they look comparable. The game honestly, in quality terms, looks very comparable to like Xenoblade 2, but less generic. Like Xenoblade 2, you could tell a lot of times that they were rushing to make their levels, and like the grass feels very like just painted on, you know?
Okay.
Like they, like I literally think they probably had like a paintbrush for grass and just went and filled in, you know, like it didn't look like it was crafted, you know? Most of the stuff didn't feel like that unless you were in a city. This year, everything feels a lot more like placed and laid out properly, so it looks a lot more polished in that aspect. But as far as like graphical quality, I think it looks like Xenoblade 2, but a little bit better. If anybody's curious about resolution, sorry, it's super hard to pixel count these games, so I only really got like one shot where they were being perfectly still, and the YouTube compression was low enough where I could get a general pixel count. And it was either it was even then it was so blurry, it was hard to make out exactly. So it's
What are you thinking?
I'm thinking it's either 1344 by 756 or just over 720p, or it is 1556 by 864, which is just under 900p. But it's super hard to tell exactly because there's a lot of blurring to it. So when you're trying to count the pixels,
Sure.
it's hard to tell exactly where they start and end. So I could be 1 pixel off, and that's why it's between those two numbers. But it's somewhere in there, in that shot. Now, dynamic resolution throws everything off. I could only really get that shot because everything else was so blurry that there was no way I could even get a close to an accurate reading on it.
Boy.
Oh, Charizard. Oh no.
That fell in the background. Wow.
Yeah.
I'll fix that later.
But yeah, it's definitely looks clearer than Xenoblade, which is a dynamic 720p. So I definitely think if it is 756, it definitely keeps to that a lot more. Like maybe it is between those two. Maybe it's between 720p and 900p. Maybe that's the dynamic resolution range. I don't know. That's kind of what I'm guessing. But 30 FPS game. They did release a 60 FPS encoded footage, and it was only at 30. So 30 FPS game. But yeah, it looked great, and it's cool. It's really cool to see an RE Engine game on Switch. I'm super curious. I think in the rumors they were talking about how I believe the engines don't like, you can't like put assets from the real RE Engine into the simplified version. Like it doesn't work that way. So they can't use this to like put Resident Evil 2 Remake on the Switch, for example. I think that's what the rumors, which are obviously correct. So if that part of the rumor was true, then it seems like Resident Evil 2 Remake couldn't come to Switch that way, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I would love to see how that run on Switch. But it definitely looks like it's suited for Switch, but it's as next gen looking or current gen looking as possible, while still being something that could see running well and keeping its resolution target.
Yeah, I mean, my lamest terms, the game looks pretty good.
I will say the towns and like the indoor sections, like that little indoor section, like that hut they were in, looked really nice.
Mm-hmm.
And the Palamute with its, because it has a much better model in that room because it's just renewing the room.
Right.
The Palamute
I did
really
notice
nice.
that
is
room
something
looked a lot
I
better.
noticed.
Yeah.
Monsters, especially the bigger ones, and it definitely was the more important they were, the better they looked, kind of deal. But they looked good. They looked great. I mean, they already looked super good for the 3DS. I mean, the fact that they got monsters look that good on the hardware was insane.
Like the Switch version with the scaled up textures, the monsters themselves look solid. Yeah,
and this looks so much better. And there's just what's called secondary motion, which is like when an object moves and that moves another object. So the fur on the characters, when they moved, it would have secondary motion.
That's interesting.
And it would flow. And that was something I noticed a lot.
I'm gonna take another look
like
at
the fatter monsters have like physics and stuff, like very basic or like scripted like physics interactions for like the fatter monsters, so they like jiggle around.
Okay.
There was a lot of secondary motion, and the animation work was really good, but the model quality was also excellent.
So
a lot of high polygon count models and great skin shaders and like fur shaders and
Okay.
I guess what would you call that on a lizard? Scale shaders.
Scale shaders. So I want to like move on a little bit because we still haven't talked about the big topic for tonight. So just want to close up our thoughts on Monster here real quick. Just in going back kind of the gameplay thing. But I mean, I don't understand every little detail, but I see a lot of advanced techniques going on with Monster Hunter Rise. The game definitely there are some things that I would say it's a little rough around the edges, but overall it does feel like a technically impressive game for Switch. And I bet once the game finally comes out, it's going to look even better. But going back to the gameplay, I was just I feel like that wire bug thing is a big deal. It's a big deal because the world's entirely, it's like a sandbox. So it's a contained area, and you can do everything in it. Previous Monster Hunter games, it was like little loading areas. And now it's all one open environment, and there's a lot of verticality to it. You can climb. It seems like you can climb pretty much anywhere within this environment, and that's really exciting. But also with the wire bug, it's not just for traversal, but also how you move about, and that can sort of change how you do combat. You can jump over enemies, get on top of monsters.
Yeah, that was the big thing. Is in the trailer I don't think they showed them using the wire bug in combat in the trailer, did they? I don't know if we really knew that was going to be a thing.
I had an idea that it would be, so it may have shown to an extent. But you can use it at any point. So, it's up to you to decide how you use that. You could use it to dodge or all sorts of things. So it's really interesting how that's going to sort of change the gameplay. Not to mention,
it looks super fun to use.
Yeah, and then the dog, like, that's going to speed up gameplay. Like, just being able to run around these bigger environments. That's
and there's
really cool.
reason for exploration and doing things because you can get a lot of buffs to increase your stamina and increase your max health and things like that. So there's reason to go if you're getting your butt kicked by a monster. Just run around and get a lot of these buffs and things.
These monsters can chase you too, though, right? So you're gonna need that speed to get away, or sometimes you will be chasing the monsters, and you're gonna want that speed for that as well. So there's a lot of different reasons to want these different traversal options, and it really does feel like this is a really strong evolution for the Monster Hunter series, and it looks like it's almost like a combination of what they did with World with the previous Monster Hunter game. It's like a happy marriage, and we're getting exclusively for Switch, and it looks pretty good. So I'm very excited for what we've seen so far for the game, absolutely. But I'm pretty much ready to start talking about Hyrule Warriors if you are.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay, cool. So let me just check with the chat real quick. Yes, the Charizard plate is down. Charizard is not dead, though. He'll be fine. Don't worry. Birdman. Is Age of Calamity 60 FPS? I couldn't tell. I believe it is not.
I believe it's 30.
Yeah. Jugswiki said it's amazing that Capcom the stuff the GIMP version of the re-engine onto the Switch and it still looks good. It does look pretty good. Yeah. But now let's talk about the big topic. So, Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, man. I'm not sure where to start. But basically, I already knew I wanted the game, but now I know, on top of know, that I want the game maybe twice. Like, it's real. I want to talk about this game because it just looks really awesome. A lot of different things. I have a lot of different thoughts here. Like, first, Impa, she looks super cool. What she can do in combat looks awesome. Seeing her, that's just great. I mean, we kind of saw it coming, but I'm just glad to see seeing her emotion and what she can do with the Kage Bunshins, the shadow clones, and the hand side. Like, she's a ninja, dude, and she looks really awesome with all of her attacks, and it's very fast paced. And just seeing the gameplay, though, like, it looks like the attacks have a lot of oomph, which definitely matters because this is an action game. This is more action oriented than an actual Zelda game, so they definitely need to make sure the combat is really strong. And for what I can see, in terms of like the direct combat stuff, like yes, Breath of the Wild has the physics engine, so there's a lot more you can do with that. But in terms of like just combat focused things, this feels like it might be a little bit deeper than Breath of the Wild, which it didn't have a deep combat system, so that's not saying that much. But I think the biggest concern with Hyrule Warriors is that there isn't that much depth, and when you're just hacking and slashing through these hordes of enemies, it can get a little repetitive. And that still may end up being the case, but from what I've seen, it feels like there is a fair bit of variety so far, and
Yeah, there's a lot of
feels
moves
satisfying.
and a lot of different play styles. There definitely didn't seem to be just like one thing that they were using just over and over again. Like they had a lot of different tools. There was a surprising amount of things brought over, like mechanics from Breath of the Wild. This is a really, really customized,
like the
Muso type game. Like,
right.
This is not your standard.
This is more
Muso
on the
game.
Scramble line of things, and it might even be better than Scramble, and that's looking to be a pretty good game too. So, did you notice the stasis one where I saw stasis on a horde of enemies?
Yeah.
And you would smack around, and you would see them going in different directions, these stasis arrows, building up the momentum in different directions. Now, I don't actually think that this game is using the physics engine of Breath of the Wild.
I don't think so.
No,
it looks like the physics are much simplified.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're more scripted.
They're scripted.
And it works better for this game, though.
Yeah.
If it was like... Because the physics engine is really cool in Breath of the Wild, but sometimes it gets a little tedious almost.
Yes.
Because you have to like try to make sure things work exactly how they are, and of course the physics are super like almost a little too real sometimes. So you're trying to get something crazy wacky to happen, but it's like, nah, that's not how physics work, bro. And you're like, dang it.
Yeah.
This is a game where you don't want to have to be worrying about lining up the physics properly and stuff like that. You just want to throw out a bajillion bombs and blow things up. You know, you don't want to be worrying about how the bomb rolls realistically down the mountain to get to an enemy like you do in Breath of the Wild. It's not like that. So they definitely don't have the same physics, and I don't think they'd be able to run that physics engine with that many characters on screen.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there. And I'm watching the footage, I did see like pop-in, things like that.
Yeah, there's more pop-in in this game. Well, Breath of the Wild had a lot of pop-in because it had to use...
Yeah, but that was an open
for, like,
world.
the Wii U
This is not open world.
Yeah.
It's more like open sections.
The levels are very big, though.
It looks like
They're very big.
Like, you're going to be able to explore these environments you want. Like, you're going to be able to see this. Like, there's one part where you're actually in a town that never existed in Breath, or if it did, it was all destroyed. So we're going to be able to see these environments, so it's not like you won't be able to see it.
The coolest thing, because you see, if you remember in Breath of the Wild, like Hyrule Field, there's a ton of cities that used to be there.
Mhm.
They're just completely wiped out.
All
and you
ruins.
see like the horse stable ruins and stuff. And we actually see that town by the horse stable ruins in the footage. You can go there and you can explore that. And it's crazy because towns like that, it's not just that there are more towns. Like towns like these towns didn't exist in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
There are no towns that looked and felt like the towns that we're seeing in this game. They didn't exist. They were all like small little like country, like bumpkin kind of towns in Breath of the Wild. Like these are cities.
Yeah,
like
so we're gonna be able to see some of that
suburbs
stuff.
And your cities. These aren't your rural areas like you saw in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, like there was that trailer that showed like the fortress at Akala, and it was just like under siege at night with all the fire. Like that looked really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna we may be able to actually to defend this fortress now, and that's gonna be exciting to do. Like just being able to live through all of this. But I want to like kind of focus a little bit more on the gameplay here. Like I'm sure you noticed that there's a lot of like little Breath of the Wild things that they were doing in there. Like it's not just like the shield surfing and using the runes, which all look really cool, but also stuff like the HUD. Like there's HUD elements that are all very Breath of the Wild-esque. Like you have
sound effects are great.
Yeah, they have the
kind of sound effects.
The little chimes. Yeah, they have that. And like they even have like the little. So the overall bosses in Breath of the Wild, they have that in this game. They have like life bars and the text. Like it all matches up. They did a lot to make this feel like it's connected to Breath of the Wild. The graphics and style look basically the same. The cutscenes look like they're straight out of Breath of the Wild, but new cutscenes. And a lot of the, I don't want to, not the physics mechanics, but they did do a lot of scripted stuff that kind of make it feel like you're still playing.
It emulates it. It takes the aspect of it and it reworks in a way that makes sense for this game.
Yeah. So I feel like, some people
the sound
are sleeping
design
on this
is a big thing because I feel like people underestimate how much sound design affects the game, and the sound design in Breath of the Wild was so different from the other Zelda games, and they have it perfect in this. It's absolutely perfect.
Right. If you play through Breath of the Wild and you play through this, there's gonna be a lot of moments where you're like, oh yeah, I remember that. Oh yeah, like it's you're gonna.
But
there's a lot of Breath of the Wild
same
stuff
sort
here.
of tune, but it's a little bit more actiony. But it's not so much that it's not Breath of the Wild anymore, like Breath of the Wild music. It's just a little bit more. It's just enough to make it just that much more exciting, without being just completely different and fully melodic tracks.
Absolutely. One other mechanic that I thought was really cool was that the Flurry Rush is there. We got to see it in motion this time, and it's the Flurry Rush. Like, does it look and feel exactly the same as it was in Breath of the Wild? No. A lot of it's faster paced. It links into combos and stuff, but you have that there. So like, there's a lot of things that were in Breath of the Wild in terms of combat that are in there now.
And we saw collecting items from fallen foes. So if like the Wiz Robes,
you could use
you can take
fire and ice staff.
So you can use those. And there's certain items. So they did bring that mechanic in. Obviously, to be defeating a Goblin, you're not going to get 1,000 different wooden clubs. But for the bigger enemies, they'll sometimes drop their weapon.
So, and that's the thing, though, that I have noticed that Link can use more than one weapon. I don't know if he can switch it in-game, but we seen him use a Master Sword, but there was also some footage of him using the spear as well. And I think that's interesting because Link did have several movesets in Breath of the Wild depending on what weapon he used. So we may see that again with Hyrule Warriors. I mean, we know we're seeing that again with Link at least. And I wonder if that will also translate to the other characters. I'm not sure.
We do know that the other characters can pick up items like the Fire Rod and the Ice Rod.
At least that. So there's probably a little bit more than that. We didn't see Zelda fight that much. Like there's one level where she's in the environment.
The only time we've seen Zelda fight is in the initial trailer. They didn't show any more footage of her.
She was running around in one of the levels,
mystery because all we've seen her use is the items. We haven't seen her actual like main fighting capabilities because we know now that people are able to use those items. Now it does seem like each character uses runes almost in their own way, or specific ones can use specific runes differently. So using your Sheikah Slate with one character isn't going to be the exact same as using it with another character.
Yep,
they're going to be different for each character, but each of them does have access to this Sheikah Slate. So is Zelda's moveset we thought was going to be based around the Sheikah Slate, but that doesn't seem to be the case because they all have that ability. So she has to have other movesets that we haven't seen before.
So the problem with this is that, and you know, I think they're going to probably definitely change the story slightly to some degree to make it all fit. There will be some, changes, retcons, probably. But one that they may do, but would definitely be kind of a hard one to get over, is that they may give Zelda access to her divine powers early in the game. The problem with that is that the big story of Zelda in Breath of the Wild, or like the story that was being told that was happening during this time, was that she didn't have her powers, and that was playing a big toll on her, her mental state, because she knew she needed those powers to help defend Hyrule, and she didn't actually unlock them until the very end, supposedly. Now, maybe they kind of explain it away. Maybe she did have some of her powers, and it sort of develops over time or something. Like maybe they could do something like that. But the point is, the way they presented Zelda in Breath of the Wild, she didn't unlock her powers until Link finally fell. And I don't know how much more game will be left once Link has fallen, because the champions will have fallen already. And we're going to play through that. And maybe there is, extra stuff where Zelda has her powers, and you could do that. It's also possible that maybe that there is only one playable Zelda and she has her powers, but you can't actually play as her until after you get to that point, and she's just someone that runs around the arena with you until you get to that point. Yeah, because
the strange thing is we do see Zelda in the battlefield in part of the gameplay footage, but you can't switch to her. Only Impa's icon is shown. Zelda's not playable at that time. So maybe, it doesn't seem that Zelda's going to be playable the entire game.
Yeah, so maybe she won't be playable until she unlocks her powers. I think that makes sense. Either that or have two playable Zeldas. If you give her divine powers early on, then that's kind of... It's not how the story went. And we know this is going to take place well before the champions are the champions, because we've seen scenes like it. A lot of it is gonna be about recruiting the champions, going to different areas and recruiting them, and they're all gonna have an adventure together. It's like even some scenes in the Lost Woods. So there's a lot to tell here, like sort of leading up to the final fight that killed everyone off. So that's really exciting to see. But the point is that it will be weird to give Zelda her powers early on, have you play as her. So maybe the answer is that we see her in the environment, she's part of the story, but we don't actually fight with her until later into the game, or we do, and it's just like only using runes, and they have another version of her afterwards when she has her powers. That's what I think. One or the other.
She might have more mechanical abilities that we haven't seen.
Right.
We still don't really know what the little egg dude is all
Maybe
about.
the egg fights more for her to sort of make up for the fact that she can't fight. Which is a whole other thing. Like, we saw, it's basically R2-D2, which is really cool. It's Zelda R2-D2. It's super adorable. And we have seen this character scurrying around. I'm not entirely sure what it does yet. Maybe I have to reanalyze
they haven't said
anything
about what it's for.
Yeah, so it's hard to say what exactly they're going to do with that. But I got my eyes peeled, man. It looks cool. And it's not in Breath of the Wild 1, so you have to think something's going to happen to that little guy.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, he's probably going to die. Or maybe just get sunken and we see him in Breath of the Wild 2. Who knows?
That'd be epic if they have a little location in Breath of the Wild 2 where there's like a buried or broken little egg dude.
Yeah.
Or maybe he's fine. Maybe you find him and you can fix him up and boom, sidekick in
maybe
Breath of the Wild 2.
Maybe. I do wonder if maybe that guardian thing will just help out Zelda. Maybe. Another thing I want to talk about though is that, and I haven't seen anything yet. Maybe I missed when this character is supposed to be revealed. I thought it would have been revealed already. Maybe it's taking a little bit later. But supposedly they have an 8th character to reveal soon.
Yeah, they were supposed to reveal it, I thought, today. But I didn't see it.
I never saw it come up. So there's some speculation that it might be King Rome, which I think makes sense because in the footage we saw King Rome have his own little icon, and normally when it's like a personalized character, they are playable, save for they do have the soldier icon, but that's like a generic thing for any random soldier.
Yeah,
they had one for King Rome as well, so I could maybe see him being made into a playable fighter. Now I don't know what his moveset would be. That's something they would have to come up with. I don't know if there's anything.
These guys are really good at making movesets.
Yeah, Definitive Edition had so much
characters.
Yeah,
it has that princess in Twilight Princess who's obsessed with the bugs and stuff. What's her? I forget her name. She calls herself a princess though.
Right.
And then they have they have other non-fighter characters that are just random characters. King Daphne's as a boat is a playable character.
Right. So they can definitely figure something out. And actually, I see Shifty's in the chat. What's up, bro? Shifty added me and asked, "What character are you guys most looking forward to trying out the most?" I think it has to be Impa. Yeah.
Yeah, she looked epic.
She's a
Impa,
ninja.
And then after that, Urbosa.
I was thinking something similar.
Always wanted to play as Urbosa.
I mean, I want to play as all of them. I'll say, I think they're all. I mean, Link looks cool. Did you notice that they sped up his bow attack, so it's almost like a machine gun?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun, dude. I think it's gonna be fun. I think the jury is still out to see if the gameplay will get repetitive or anything like that, but it feels fairly varied to me so far. And with the story and all of that, I think this is gonna go over really well. I get the sense that this game is gonna be the best-selling Musou game ever. I think it may even end up being the best reviewed Musou game ever as well.
I think it would definitely outsell Warriors 9 Empire that's about to come out, or that's coming out next year, I think.
I mean, in terms of Nintendo games, I don't know if it'll outsell 3D All Stars or Animal Crossing, but it might. It might. It's a big deal. And I would say it's, in terms of like new games from Nintendo, it might be the most exciting one this year. At least to me. I'm trying to think about it. Like, 3D All-Stars is cool, but it's 3 old games. Pikmin 3 Deluxe is an old game. Paper Mario is fun. I'm not the hugest Paper Mario fan, although Paper Mario Origami King made me more of a Paper Mario fan. And I did like it.
It was a great game.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
I still haven't beat it. I'm getting close, but I haven't beat it yet.
It's good. I think the ending is strong.
It's not quite back to the 1,000-Year Door levels of just absolutely incredible, but it's way closer than before. I think it's probably my favorite of the Paper Mario games, other than 1,000-Year Door.
Yeah, it's a good game.
I need to beat it though, so I can't say for sure.
I think you'll like it.
I hear the final parts are like the best part of the entire game. So
it ends strong. I think it ends strong. But just going back to my point, like Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity is I'm pretty excited for this game. So I see that Taker610 sent me another super chat. Thank you very much. King Dorphin moveset 1 slap 2 throw 3 crush. I can see that. I can see that happening. I don't know. Oh, I don't know if he'll be slapping. Maybe he'll be backhanding people because he's a king. Yeah.
Get out of my way.
He definitely has he's got like a big, strong body. You know, like I remember when we saw this guy in the Great Plateau before we knew who he was. There was a lot of theories that this guy's Ganondorf or something because he's like big and tall. He looks really strong. He's not Ganondorf, he's a king, but he looks like he could definitely he could be one of those power characters. So yeah, I feel like this guy's gonna be a heavy hitter, kind of like not Yunubo, Daruk.
Yeah.
So Birdman added me. I feel that Nintendo will do a Nintendo Treehouse with Age of Calamity close to its release, just like with Paper Mario: The Origami King. Maybe. That is potentially possible. I do think that they may want to show more of this game.
They did at TGS.
Right.
So
this might be.
It wasn't from the Treehouse, but it was the same type of thing.
Yeah, we are like 6-7 weeks away from the release of this game, so they may do more. I feel like we will see more on the game before it comes out, but it might just be from previews.
I think we'll just see another trailer. I don't think they'll show like a bunch more stuff.
Yeah.
Even in that, there were areas even in the main levels that they were just like avoiding for spoilers. So I definitely don't think they want to like blow this game out. Like the story aspect of this game, they're keeping it under wraps. There's aspects that they don't want you to see.
So, question for you. One thing that I'm hoping is there, but I do not believe it's there at all. Do not believe it's there. So don't think that what I'm saying is I don't think it's there. But did you see any footage that confirmed or denied the ability to climb?
I didn't see any that confirmed or denied it, but it didn't seem...
It doesn't look like it.
It feels like the levels are intended to be able to run around without the need to climb.
Yeah.
Like, they don't happen in
really
areas that are way too vertical.
Yeah. Like, there are moves that sort of take you up, and there's actually... I saw one with Impa where she uses, like, a paraglider, and she actually can glide around downhill.
Yeah,
which I thought was
you can pull your paraglider out with a lot of the characters. I know Link can do it, Impa can do it. I'm not sure who else.
So you may still be able to do that to get to high points. I mean, I don't think it would be that crazy if they let you climb. I really don't. But they would. There still has to be some sort of.
I feel like the normal climbing Breath of the Wild is far too slow to work in this type of game.
Right.
It would have to be way faster.
Yeah, that's another thing.
Can't just be slowly climbing with a stamina bar, hoping you make it in a Muso game. Like, it's not.
I don't know.
People aren't gonna find that fun. Honestly.
But climbing is a big thing in Breath of the Wild, so they might think of some way to sort of include it, maybe. But definitely, I don't see it. It's not. This is not a platform.
The levels they've shown don't seem like they need. Really need to climb
so far. Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
I mean, it's not an open world game. I mean, the big part of Breath of the Wild was like seeing where you could go and like trying to get to places and
So
There's exploration. Was
another
why
thing
you climb.
that I noticed, did you see the Guardian fight?
Yes,
Did you notice how they did not attack the tentacles?
I did notice that. So we didn't see if they could break or not.
Right, that's what I wanted to know the most. I wanted to know if they can break the tentacles.
I feel
or
like
not.
they probably can. I mean, they have grass being would be cut, trees can be cut down.
You can
Bokoblin camps can be destroyed, which wasn't even a thing in Breath of the Wild.
Right, this game's more destructible than Breath of the Wild.
It's more simple in its destruction. It's less physics driven, but it's still like you can still destroy a lot of things. Even more things than Breath of the Wild. So.
I was very pleased that we were able to cut the grass.
Yeah.
I was worried that we wouldn't have that.
There's so much attention to detail in this game, and the animations and the way that characters move. Like I don't know if you've seen this, but I saw it. There was a soldier who was 1-1 with a Bokoblin, and they ended up the Bokoblin beat the sword out of the knight's hand, and he fell on the ground, and he started like backing away on the ground in fear as the Bokoblin was reaching up to like beat him. And it was like so much animation and detail for just like a random little one-on-one fight that meant nothing basically in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. Another thing I want to point out is that the giant Bokoblin, I forget the name of it, it was able to hit its enemy. In an effort to hit you, it hit a lot of its smaller Bokoblin friends. So,
and there's a lot of different. There's even more different like variation to the Bokoblins and like size and stuff.
And like particle effects and weapons and stuff. So they're kind of forced to. They don't have that many enemies to use from Breath of the Wild, so they kind of have to mix up the ones they have a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I guess the overall point though is that this game definitely has an attention to detail, like you said, Brandon. You can see it, and I feel like a lot of people who just see it as a Warriors game are kind of sleeping on it a little bit. Like they're not giving it a chance because yes, it's not Zelda. Like this is not Zelda. If you're expecting a Zelda adventure, this is not what this is. But it is something that appeals to Zelda fans, and if you like combat in Zelda, you're gonna like this, I think. And it's not lazy. There's a lot of
so much
here.
A step up from the original Hyrule Warriors and even Definitive Edition.
Yeah.
In terms of just being so grounded in the universe and feeling like a Zelda game. Like, Hyrule Warriors did not feel like a Zelda game. This, you could almost feel like you are playing another part of Breath of the Wild.
Yeah. With some limitations, but still, there's a lot there that's going to give you that Breath of the Wild feeling to an extent. Not the openness
Shield
of
surfing
it, but
is in there.
Yeah.
Simplified and used more for attacks, but it's in there. See,
paragliding's in there.
You can do pretty much like everything you can do in Breath of the Wild. It's just works differently to better fit this type of game, and this type of game better fits the type of story they're trying to tell. So it all really works out perfectly.
I agree. And AJ Numa wanted Koei Tecmo to make this game. He approached them to make this game. It was his idea to have them make this game because he thought this would be the right way to tell this story. And I'm thinking he's probably right.
It's the best way.
Yeah. I'm definitely curious how it'll hold up.
I don't think you could
I think
have a battle of anywhere near this scale in the original Breath of the Wild. First off, I don't think the engine can handle it. It's not really built to handle so many characters. I mean, even already, like when there's a bunch of characters on screen in Breath of the Wild, the frame rate like dies.
Yeah.
So, like, imagine a Muso level game that would never run.
Yeah.
Not that engine. There's too many physics going on. The CPU can't handle it.
Yeah.
But this is the perfect game to tell that war. Because, some games, like Xenoblade, sometimes it's a bit weird when they have, like, war scenes, but there's, like, very few characters. You're just, like, fighting one-on-one battles and then moving on, But it's supposed to be, like, a war cutscene. So this really tailors the gameplay and works perfectly for that type of, like, war on Hyrule story they're going for.
It looks awesome. I just like how we're going to be able to explore this environment and use these different characters to see more of that story. But I feel like we've pretty much kind of covered the basics here, but I want to kind of run through the chat before we call it a night here. So guys, feel free to ask questions about anything. Could be about Age of Calamity, could be about something else, but we're gonna try and close out the discussion soon. Super Chris added me. If there was a Nintendo Direct, what would you want? 100% I would like to see Breath of the Wild 2. I would like to see something Metroid. And I would also like to see Nintendo bring back a Nintendo franchise that has not been used in a long time. Be it Kid Icarus, or F-Zero, or maybe a 3D Kirby game, maybe Kirby Air Ride, or Wave Race, Wario, like a Wario adventure game.
WarioWare would be great for Switch.
WarioWare would be great. A new Donkey Kong
Then again,
game.
WarioWare
Star
would
Fox.
also be amazing for phones.
Mm-hmm. True. So those are some of the things I would like to see. What I expect.
Something I would like to see would be a Monolith Soft game. I would really, the other thing's
falling apart, man. I gotta fix it.
But I would really love to see that new IP, that medieval IP that they've been working on since, what was it, 2018, I think? Early, I think we saw the copyrights and stuff, or I forget. It's been so long by this point, I forget what it was, but we saw that game was being developed in, I think it was like June, July, or August, like sometime in the summer of 2018. So it's been in development for a while. 2021 could be the year it releases. I mean, Monolith, big studios, and they get games done pretty quickly. So, unless it's like Xenoblade X2 or something, which might take them a long time, I feel like they could put out a new game next year, or at least show one off.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a 2022 thing, but could be. You know, they've been working on something, so we're gonna see it sooner or later, for sure. Bayonetta Dark Ride 103. My Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity mains is going to be Urbosa, Impa, Link, and Rivali. I'm pretty excited for those. Those are the ones that I'm mostly looking forward to playing as. Bayonetta Dark Ride also asks, do you think there's going to be a character DLCs in Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity? It's a good question. It's tough because
probably,
but the thing is that the story, you know, like it's something that's meant to be focused on the story leading up to Breath of the Wild. So I don't know if they'll expand on it.
I think it will be like the original Hyrule Warriors, where they have the storyline maps and you play through the story, but they have a ton of other maps that are just references to other Zelda games, and that's maybe where you can play as like Hetsu. A lot of people want Hetsu to be in the game.
Oh, that'd be neat. And fighting with maracas, dude. Yeah, cool.
You can play as like all the different other characters that don't make sense. The Champion's Descendants, probably plays those in those maps. Like pulling from a lot of different characters, or even characters from the past series, like they did in Hyrule Warriors. They might bring some of those back, make maps of those. So I definitely think there'll be DLC and stuff, and other content not focused just on the main story.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of money to be made with that, so I think there's always potential they could do that. I just wonder, like, you know, with Breath of the Wild 2 probably coming out soon, I wonder if, I don't think it would really conflict. So I mean, yeah,
They might even have Breath of the Wild 2 DLC, depending on when that game comes out. Like if it's an earlier,
maybe, that's an interesting
thing.
point. Actually, there may be a lot of characters introduced in Breath of the Wild 2 that they might showcase in that game. That's a possibility. Good point. Benjamin W. added me, but can King Dorephan get out of the throne room? Maybe to start slapping some people down.
I think he will be playable. Maybe you'll unlock him towards the end, because we know he dies on the Great Plateau. So how does he get there? Or he likely dies in the Great Plateau.
Maybe in a final fight, protecting Link.
So, yeah, probably. So it would appear, and we got, you know, the Temple of Time's completely destroyed. There was a big battle on the Great Plateau, and I suspect you'll be able to play as him there.
Yeah. So we have a super chat from Taker610. Thank you again. How does Age of Calamity end gameplay-wise, you think? That's another good question. I mean, we know that, you know, that Link falls, but there is this cutscene with Zelda saying she has to protect everyone, and that really, to me, looks like the ceiling point
Right.
where she seals herself, or she tries to like hold him back, and she's like sealed with Ganondorf, or not Ganondorf, but
I
Calamity
think
Ganon.
that will probably be the final fight. I think that would be a final battle at the Great Plateau. And then you'll have a final moment where you play as Zelda, fully unlocked powers, and you have a big boss against Calamity Ganon, and you seal him away. And that's how the game ends. So it still ends on a victory. So, because you have to be able to end, like, you can't just end it on a loss, right?
Yeah.
You gotta end it on a pseudo victory. So that's how they'll still have the game end on a high note. But, you know, obviously they lost overall. But the final fight, you do seal away Ganon, and you get that 100 years for Link to be resurrected. And it's still like, you know, in Breath of the Wild that everything works out well. So it's kind of like Rogue One's ending, in a way.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about that is that if Zelda has a significant role in Breath of the Wild 2, having her be the final character you play as in the final fight for Age of Calamity, I think definitely would sort of function as some sort of tease, and maybe there could even be some sort of cutscene that links all 3 games. I could see something like that happening. But yeah, Brandon, I'm 100% in agreement with you that if there's a final fight for the story, it's gonna take place with Zelda trying to finish off or put the Calamity Ganon in some sort of like held back state, the way it is in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, because you can't just end the game with a loss. You gotta end it with a victory of some sort.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the Halo Reach of Zelda games, or the Rogue One of Zelda games. Rogue One is very much like that. You know that they obviously don't make it, but they get those plans out and they destroy the Death Star in the end. It's kind of the vibe I get.
Kind of just like watching like all of the first Star Wars trilogy, where you know Anakin is gonna become a big bad, and it's all gonna go awry.
Yeah. Or it's like playing Torna.
Yeah, Torna's sad, dude. Torna's really sad. Like, you're like, oh, Mithra's so great. Oh, she kills everyone. But sorry.
Spoilers.
Well, I mean, it's Torna.
If you don't know the context of that, you're not gonna remember it enough to get spoiled. I don't think.
Yeah. It's gonna be interesting to see the different champions. Like, this is our opportunity to play as the champions and get to know them, because playing through Breath of the Wild, we didn't get that opportunity. We wanted it, and now they're going to give it to us. And I feel like Age of Calamity could be what is used to sort of put a ribbon on their stories, because in Breath of the Wild, I feel like we don't really get that conclusion to their stories, you know?
Yeah,
Hyrule
we
Warriors
just know that they failed somehow.
Yeah,
we didn't even see them going back to the Divine Beast. We don't even see that journey or what happens there exactly. All we know is that they split off and then eventually they fail.
Yeah,
we never see any of that.
Master League 2011 added me. You think we'll get to see King Dorephan yeet a Guardian in Age of Calamity? I think so, actually. Yeah, I 100% do. I think that could be happening. What was I gonna say? I don't know. I'm excited for this game. There was something I was gonna say, but I can't.
I will say it was super hyped for me to see, and I think I touched on this earlier, but I didn't really talk about that much. But I'm super hyped about just exploring the world as it was 100 years ago, because it really is just completely different. Like, you can recognize that, oh, this is this location, but it's, as far as how it's laid out and like what's actually there, completely different. I mean, Hyrule Field and Breath of the Wild is kind of a barren wasteland. There's one tower and a couple shrines, but mostly it's empty other than the guardians that are roaming around and broken structures. So to see like it packed with cities and towns and places is crazy, because that was not at all how we saw it in Breath of the Wild. It's completely different. And even places like even in the volcanic area in Goron Mountain or Death Mountain, there's structures in between there. It's not just the one city. That's kind of how Breath of the Wild was. It was like everything's reduced to just like the one hub, and then it's like lifeless everywhere else. Now you see that life in between, those in between areas getting really fleshed out. and we didn't see that in Breath of the Wild.
We're gonna
And I hope they continue that into Breath of the Wild too.
Yeah, I feel like they're. My feeling is that they will in Breath of the Wild too.
I feel like they have to. I feel like that's going to be one of the main ways that they change up.
I think it'd be disappointing if we go back to Hyrule and there isn't much there again. They have to be doing a lot for this game because they started development in 2017. They had a base, a foundation with the engine and mechanics of Breath of the Wild. So with a foundation and what appears to be nearly 4 years of development, they're gonna be able to make this a big game filled with stuff. So I think that yes. And to your point, like it could be seeing all these different things we're seeing in Age of Calamity. It might be kind of like another like kind of soft teaser for Breath of the Wild too, because there could be a lot there again, because it may be a little bit of time after Breath of the Wild 1 where they start restoring Hyrule and people start returning and start building up encampments and towns and villages, and we see more species and animals and stuff like that.
It'd be interesting if they actually shared assets and development tools across the two games, because it does feel like Nintendo shared assets with them for this game, because a lot of the assets are almost a match.
Like, I think they had. I think so. Yeah. No, I had that same thought actually.
Yeah.
I feel like they had to.
It could be that some of these, if they decide to recreate them in the same way, because maybe they want to build it up, and the townsfolk decide to build it up completely differently in Breath of the Wild 2, and it's not the same structures. But if they are going to rebuild it to be more of the same type of structures, maybe they'll even share assets, and they've been like working alongside the Zelda team even more closely than they made it out to be. That's just a theory, a game theory. Anyways, I had to do it. But yeah, it would be interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Just looking at the chat here. 5H0 block. Is it chalk block? Shock block. Gotcha.
Shock block.
What if after Zelda's battle with Ganon, we get a time skip to present day and play as Link vs. Dark Beast Ganon, but the Warriors gameplay improves over the original? I don't really expect to see that.
Don't see that happening.
It would be neat, cool, but I don't expect to see it.
I feel like the Musou. I don't know if the Musou gameplay would improve that fight, because I feel like it's a very one-on-one fight, which is not really what Musou's about.
Yeah,
and especially that first part of the fight was perfect.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I don't.
It was
really
just that second part where it was like, "What is this?"
Yeah, I don't expect that. Taker 610. Do giant bokoblins break the continuity for Breath of the Wild, or did Link kill them all? Let's pretend Link killed them all.
Maybe they just died out.
Maybe they just died out. Yeah, maybe. For something like, I don't think that's a big deal. I think that's fine. But you know.
I mean, there's a lot of little lore things where that's not going to make sense. It's just going to happen. There's going to be little things. Obviously, there's a ton of abilities that Link has, and the way he uses them that he doesn't use in Breath of the Wild, which is in itself a continuity error. But I mean, that's just how video games
reminds
are.
me of. It kind of reminds me of a Star Wars. So, and we've already mentioned Star Wars already, and then there's the whole R2-D2 Guardian thing as well. But you have the original trilogy of Star Wars, which is episodes 4 through 6, and then there's episodes 1 through 3, and there are things that happen in 1 through 3 that you're like, wait, why?
Midi-chlorians, my bro.
It doesn't entirely add up. Doesn't feel entirely connective.
Yeah. The spin-offs are the same way.
Yeah,
but there's some stuff where you're like, how does that make sense?
So there's gonna be some things like that, but I think for the most part, this is gonna feel fine. Like the Zelda team is working closely with them, so there'll be some minimal things. But to that point, though, the Zelda team is not known for plot consistency game by game.
No,
so
they're really not.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be. There's gonna be little things like the bigger bokoblins, but I don't think it's gonna be anything major though. I think overall it's gonna feel like a connected, cohesive story.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Sabbath asked me a specific question.
Sure.
He asked me if I have given Super Mario Sunshine another chance on Switch. No, I have not. I haven't got a chance to play it. Still haven't beaten 64, in fact. So no. But after I beat Galaxy, I will probably go back and give it another shot. But I have a feeling that I'll like it a little bit more, but still not like it.
So my order has been, I've tried all three, but I'm working through Sunshine. Then I think I will do Galaxy, and then I'll close the 64. That's the order I plan on going into with this. Yeah.
My only issue with 64, other than, just the fact that it's unambitious, but I just wish they had fixed the camera because it's still bad. I die 99% of the times I die, which I mean isn't that frustrating because the levels aren't that long. But if I die, it's almost always because I'm trying to get a specific camera angle. I can't tell, and I can't tell the depth, so I can't jump correctly, and I miss the platform because I can't see where I'm going.
Yeah.
Or the camera's clipping through the wall, and I can't tell where I am. A lot of times the camera angles just, you need a very specific camera angle to see the depth. I mean, you're playing you're on a 2D screen trying to play a 3D game. If you don't have the right camera angle, you're not gonna be able to tell how far you need to jump because it's all gonna look flat, and you can't tell the depth. You don't have depth perception. You need the proper camera angles, and 64 just doesn't allow you to move the camera well enough.
I get what you mean. I do wish they did improve the camera, but it's works. But it's good enough.
It works. It's just frustrating.
Just being able to play the game on a Pro controller is a huge improvement over playing
nice.
on an N64 controller,
It
or
is
even a
nice.
Wii U Pro controller. It's better. It just feels better. Checking with the chat here though. I am Shifty. Sunshine still poo. 64 has still aged gracefully. IMO, fight me. I will fight you.
64 has aged well. It's mostly just the camera and like some pop-in stuff where it's like you can't see things from a distance, so it's harder to figure out where you need to go for things.
Playing through Sunshine, I will concede that you can definitely feel that there's a little bit less of polish with this game. That is evident. But overall, I still feel like the game is very enjoyable. The world is beautiful, and it's fun to explore.
I just love on 64 you can collect stars in like almost any order you want. There's certain stars you have to collect first, but most of the time, if you want to get the right Sunshine's
star, is still way. I would say Sunshine is even more open. Like, I was able to go to World 7 as my second star. I had to do some platforming magic.
The missions themselves are typically way more linear. Like, you can't just go in and get, like, any star you want. You have to get the mission star, or mission shine. Pretty much.
There's some exceptions.
There's some that you can get, but it's way more limited.
I get what you mean by that, but there is also, that still exists in 64 as well. Maybe it's slightly more
64,
options.
Most of stars you can get at any time. You usually just have to beat, like, the first mission.
I get what you mean. But I also feel like there's actually an argument to support Sunshine, because each world, like, by star, kind of tells a story, and it's continuous. It's not just like, oh, you did it, you beat the boss, now everything's the same for the rest of the levels. No, it's like every star, there's like something else sort of changing with this world. So it's like a story being told with each one, and I really like that, actually. But, and there's still like a decent amount of openness in terms of how you can go about acquiring each star. But I understand what you mean with 64 and that openness and being able to go with it in different ways. I'm just kind of moving through a chat here. Shockblock. Yeah, the second phase versus Ganon is what I was talking about. Instead of target practice that Breath of the Wild had, it's a straight up battle, kind of like the final battle in the first Hyrule Warriors. If they do that'd be great. I just don't expect them to flash forward to the next game and give us a whole other level and change that fight entirely, and especially when it's just the second part of the fight. Because, like, Link fought not Ganondorf, I keep saying Ganondorf. We'll fight Ganondorf in Breath of the Wild too, but Link fought Calamity Ganon on his own under Hyrule Castle. And Zelda was sort of coming out of her ceiling or what have you during Calamity Ganon, but there's nothing else there. So I just don't see them. That would be a tremendous retcon that I do not expect them to do. Let's see here. Beverly Carter, is there a good possible chance that the next Smash DLC Fire might be one of the champions? I'm hoping for Mifa, Age of Calamity. Her stage, music tracks, and the content as well. I mean, we talked about earlier. I definitely think there's a chance. I'm thinking it's Impa. Brandon, I think you agree with me.
Yeah, Impa seems more likely because you can't. It's hard to pick one champion because everybody has their favorite champions.
Well, and they picked Min.
Yeah, but that's kind of more that you have to make that choice because there is.
Not to mention, Impa is a character that's been throughout the different Zelda games. So yeah, if I had to pick any,
makes more sense.
Yeah, I agree. Sav64 added us. Would you prefer an Odyssey sequel or a brand new Mario adventure?
An Odyssey sequel, because I think Odyssey has so much more potential with that style of gameplay.
Either one would be fine, because either one's a brand new Mario adventure to me. The thing but Brand, like you said with Odyssey, because Odyssey goes to entirely different kingdoms that have entirely different themes, and they can just give us more enemy types that give us different gameplay options. An Odyssey sequel will feel very fresh. It's not going to feel like just more Mario Odyssey, because Mario Odyssey's strength is its variety and open sandbox environments. And we'll get more.
I think it'll be even more. I definitely think it'll be way different than, let's say, like Mario Galaxy 2 was to 1. I think it would be seen as more of its own thing, especially because it will likely have its own story, whereas Galaxy 2 was like this weird retcon of the original story. It's just completely ruined it.
Yeah. It was just it was like a retelling. No, I think Odyssey 2
was a retelling, but not like well.
Yeah, I feel like Odyssey 2 would just pick up where Odyssey 1 left off. You know?
Yeah.
And maybe even it would be neat if, like, maybe say Peach is playable or Luigi is playable. And there's more of the Mario universe they can explore. It's an opportunity to maybe have Donkey Kong in there, maybe Wario, maybe Waluigi finally could be in a main Mario game, maybe.
They had a lot of hints and teases and obvious reference. I mean, New Donk City is entirely dedicated to referencing Donkey Kong.
And the Donkey Kong universe, not just Donkey Kong. Like, there are other things.
Yeah.
Like I think Diddy Kong was mentioned, maybe Cranky Kong, maybe
I know the like Parrot.
Yeah, there's
Donkey Kong 64 is mentioned.
There's a lot there, so I would love to see actual Donkey Kong in there. That'd be really cool. Master League 2011 Atomy. Do you think they will have Hub Worlds in Age of Calamity? I think no. I think it's going to be kind of mission-based, and maybe they'll have like a cool like menu to pick that out. It's kind of like as the war wages on. I think it'll be the same
as Hyrule Warriors, as terms of like how you select your levels. It's going to be like a really cool arted up menu, because they have they're really good at making super nice looking menus with super beautiful artwork and stuff like that. So I think they'll just do the same thing.
Yeah, one interesting thing is they can make it look like an ongoing battle on a battlefield, you know, and like there's like, oh, there's this war here, and then there's this war here, like on a map. Like they could do something like that.
Yeah, they might have like a battle map drawn out or something, and they change it as the battle continues, and you can see like where the troops are pushing forward and where they're retreating and things. That might be how they do it.
That would be fun. But yeah, not a hub world, but each world itself you can kind of explore.
A war table kind of theme.
Yeah. Let me see here. Bayonetta Darkrai 103. In Breath of the Wild 2, what if Ganondorf tells Zelda and Link for help, then he betrays Zelda and Link? I think no, if anything, he maybe tricks them to come down there and he gets them to accidentally resurrect him. But he's not going to ask them for help.
He's not going to try to be good. There's no way anybody would trust him.
Yeah.
This dude's like, you'd have to be insane.
Although it would be interesting to see more character development for Ganondorf. That would be interesting to see.
He has really good character development in the other games, especially
Wind Waker. Yeah.
It was huge for him.
Yeah, so maybe we could see something like that in like flashbacks or something. Bayonetta Darkrai, I have a question for you. Is Dante likely in Smash? There is speculation of Dante. I
don't think he's super likely, to be honest.
I mean, it could happen. I don't want to say it's like unlikely, but I also I don't know. I think Dante is as likely as Crash Bandicoot. Or
I think he's less likely than Crash.
It's hard to say.
I think Crash has at least been on
Right.
Nintendo platforms before.
Yeah, I think the thing is that
A lot.
a lot of people are sort of holding out hope for Ryu Hayabusa and Crash Bandicoot and Dante, because there's a lot of rumors for all three of those for the first part
They're
of the Fighters
definitely
Pass.
possible.
Yeah, they're still
just,
possible.
Like Crash, I just think is more likely.
Yeah, I mean, I
They're
like
also
Crash.
possible. I mean, like if Joe can get in, I feel like Dante's the same level of kind of like relationship to Nintendo.
Right.
Like doesn't really have anything to do with Nintendo, but it's a big third party thing.
Yeah. I would just he's not at the top of my list, but he's not at the bottom either. And I mean, I don't even really have like a top or bottom. Well, I do have a little bit. I would say that I'm really feeling an Impa or other Zelda character, maybe Travis Touchdown. I really feel like those characters have a good chance. I recently started talking about the main character from Monster Hunter Rise, given that it has more of a personality now and how much focus Nintendo's placing on Monster Hunter Rise in terms of its marketing. I do feel like there's a good chance that maybe that happens. So those are kind of the characters that are like in my mind right now as like, likely candidates. But there's 5 spots, and I feel like they gotta have some like big third-party characters. Maybe the Monster Hunter is one of them, but maybe Dante.
My dream character is still Jin and Laura from Torna. I would love to see Jin and Laura, especially if they use that mechanic where you could switch between them and gain back a little bit of health, kind of like traditional fighting mechanics.
They could do
fighting games
if they did Jin and Torrance instead of Rex and Pyra, I would accept it, but it'd be, you know, I'd like to see.
I'd still love to see Malos as a Shulk.
Echo. It makes so much sense, but I don't. But we haven't gotten any echoes, so I just don't see that happening.
No, I don't think we'll get any echoes.
No DLC echoes, I mean.
No.
Yeah. Anime Dreamer 91. You think there will ever be a Warriors game? A Mario Warriors game?
No.
Man, that'd be interesting, but I don't think so, because if you look at all the Warriors games, they all deal with people who have like weapons, like swords and knives and lances, like sharp medieval style kind of weapons. Fire Emblem goes well with that. Zelda goes well with that. Even Persona, they have like some weapons like that, right, with their personas and stuff. So I just like they could, like if you look at some of the movesets, they're very creative with
everybody really well.
Yeah,
there's a lot of fireballs.
Like they could, like Mario could be a lot of, like, yeah, exactly. And they could do it. I don't know.
I don't feel like they will. Obviously, they could make. I mean, these people can make movesets for anything. They can make a game out of anything. I just don't think they will, or like it's a good. Like it would be good.
I'll play around with the idea a little bit though. Like imagine if it would have to be like based off a new story. It's like, oh, there's a war in the Mushroom Kingdom versus the Koopa Kingdom, and you have to fight in the different lands of this world, and then you're just killing a whole bunch of Koopas. Like it could happen.
It would just be weird.
But it'd be funny.
It just doesn't fit
Koopas,
Mario at
all. You just see
all.
shells flying everywhere.
At least with like Fire Emblem, it makes perfect sense. That's all about wars.
Right. And in Zelda there's a lot of lore about wars. Like it makes sense as well.
Mario is not about war at all.
Yeah.
I don't really think has there ever been a war straight up?
We've already had like Kingdom? The closest thing to it is Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle, and it's not the same gameplay wise, but it's like having a third-party developer work on a spin-off series of using the Mario franchise. That's that. So if you want to see Mario a different way, try out Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle. Here I actually haven't played it myself. I've been meaning to get around to it. I just haven't.
I've played it a bit. It's super fun. Oh my god!
And it's cheap too. You can get it for a bargain. I just haven't gotten around to doing it. I need to.
Yeah, I need to play that. It's super good. I played it at a friend's house and I was like, yes, please.
Yeah, I actually see an interesting question here from Bayonetta Darkrai. What if Bowser was playable in Bowser's Fury? I think that's a decent chance. This is a decent chance. I'm going to say 50-50. Yeah.
Maybe. I have a feeling you won't be. I'm going to be honest.
Well, we'll see.
I'm going to bet against that.
Well, it's about Bowser's Fury. It's definitely heavily Bowser related. That is the case. So, well, we shall see. I'm not sure, but it would be interesting to see if like something bad happens to Bowser and it's about like enacting Bowser's Fury. I don't know.
I feel like the spin-off games are usually where you can play as Bowser. or like Bowser teams up. He doesn't really do that in the mainline games.
Played Mario Odyssey. I don't. Did you?
Yeah,
did you...
technically you're not playing as Bowser.
A little.
Technically.
That's about as mainline Mario as it gets. Just putting that out there. Yeah.
That's true, but I feel like it's possible. I just don't think it will happen.
Right. Well, we'll see. We'll find out this February, maybe sooner. Beverly Carter, I have a good question. Maybe it's Fawful and Bowser's Fury. I heard some theories about that. I don't know that too much about Fawful.
Fawful will be epic.
I
don't think he'll be in this. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think it makes sense story-wise.
Okay.
And, like, it doesn't. I don't think he fits in with the kind of aesthetic and atmosphere of this game.
Okay.
So, I don't think it makes sense to do that. Plus, he's pretty much only in the spin-offs. I don't think he's ever been in the mainline games at all, or even referenced really.
I don't know too much about Fawful, so I can't really speak on it.
Bowser's Inside Story is amazing. It's one of my favorite DS games of all, like, period. So, one of my favorite handheld games ever made. So good.
So, I feel like we've pretty much covered pretty much all the topics.
Yeah.
So, I think we're pretty much ready to close out the night. I see a question from D. Fox, so I'll address that first. What about one of the partners from one of the first two Paper Mario games for Smash?
That would be interesting.
It would be interesting. I don't think it's super likely because the character's kind of
like... I don't know who they would pick.
Yeah. Bob-omb. Bob-omb. Maybe. But, or maybe like a Koopa.
Goombella, maybe.
Well, I mean, they did give us Piranha Plant. But given that we just got Piranha Plant, I feel like it'd be weird if they were to put another, like, you know, Mario kind of character. Yeah. Not to mention, with Paper Mario Origami King, we've gotten news that they don't really want to mess too much with the Mario World characters. They don't want to change them up too much, so they might be really careful with that. Granted, that we saw Piranha Plant, and we look at what they did with that. So it's hard to say for sure. But I'll say because we got Piranha Plant as part of the DLC, it wasn't a paid DLC, but it was there. I don't really expect another Mario Universe character like that. I could be wrong. So we'll see. And I guess we don't have like a Paper Mario character, right? So that's something to consider.
Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe Nintendo knows.
Maybe. I wonder if they know, huh?
Yeah. But anyway, to kind of close out the discussion here, Age of Calamity, I think, is going to be a really good game.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be the best Warriors game yet. It's going to, if you're a Breath of the Wild fan, there's a lot in there that's going to remind you of Breath of the Wild. I feel like the combat's going to be at least a little bit more diverse compared to previous Warriors games, and there's just a lot of attention to detail. And getting to see the story and seeing more what happened with the champions and getting to explore the world before the Calamity. And also that little Guardian character, I just want to learn more about him. That little R2-D2 Guardian.
What he does. What's the point of him? Yeah. He's so cute. He's like the new Baby Yoda. Everybody's doing art of him on Twitter and Facebook and
he's a super cool character. So I want to see more of all of that. And we're not too far off. And I'm sure we're getting more information on that fairly soon.
And Rise looks great as well. I am actually hyped for Rise. I've seen other Monster Hunter games where I'm like, oh, this looks cool, but it doesn't look like it looks cool aesthetically, and the idea of fighting big monsters is cool,
right.
But they always look like slow and more clunky. This looks like a lot faster.
It's a lot more fluid.
There's more exploration. Yeah, it's more fluid. The graphics look really good for what the Switch is capable of.
Now, I'm gonna warn you though.
It's got me hyped. It's got story to it.
I'm gonna warn you though. The Monster Hunter, the entire thing is the fight. So
yeah,
you're gonna be fighting these monsters for, if you're good,
the
10
battles
minutes,
looked really good.
Or it could take like 30, 40 minutes. Like these fights can be really long. But I think that kind of makes it more interesting. Like if you lose, that it sucks because, oh man, you have to do that whole fight again. So that there is like that punishment, but at the same time, like it's so satisfying when you finally beat these guys, these titans. Like they are real titans. Like there's other bosses in other games you can just wipe out in a moment. Monster Hunter, the game is about fighting giant monsters, and when you beat them, it's so satisfying.
It's kind of like Shadow of Colossus in that way, where it's pure just mostly just bosses. Like it's not really.
Yeah, and the thing
I
about
mean,
Shadow
this is
Colossus, though,
this is
it's-
more so.
right.
Like, there's
Shadow
more
Colossus
explanation
is kind of
to it, but
scripted, and it's like 10 of them. Monster Hunter,
they're all like super
yeah.
intricate and like
Yeah.
crazy.
Now you can't really climb the monsters in Monster Hunter as much as like you can in Shadow Colossus.
I mean, that's the whole point of Shadow Colossus is
Right.
they're colossi. They're
it's
freaking huge.
Shadow Colossus is actually a platforming game. It's not a combat game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally is.
Yeah, so it's different, but also a really great game. I got a little prediction here from Shockblock. I predict the mini garden is related to why everyone has runes. Like maybe he has to be nearby for the Sheikah Slate to work. Well, that's an interesting point because the Sheikah Slate does come into Link's hands as the little guardian wakes up. So that's an interesting point.
Well, I think the guardian wakes up because Link uses the Sheikah Slate, and actually, Game Explain translated a lot of that first gameplay segment.
Yeah, what did it say?
Into English. Essentially, what they said was they talked about how Link was special in an unannounced or unknown way. Like they didn't say like it was unknown. They said in a way like unannounced or something, like untold. Like that in a way that we would figure it out in this game or something like that. You know, that was kind of their wording. But it's unknown why he can use it and other people can't. But somehow they can use it as well in this too. So I don't know if he activates it for them or something. I
don't know
how that works.
Hard to say. That was my cat. Like I said, I put the water there and I see him there. Not interrupting, so that's good. But yeah, man, I'm excited for Age of Calamity. I'm excited for Monster Hunter Rise. It seems like both of these games are looking to be really solid. In terms of like when we can see a direct, don't expect it for a while, but I do think Smash DLC, that could be announced fairly soon. And in terms of Bethesda stuff on Nintendo, we're still going to get some things, I think. We haven't been getting major things anyway, but we'll still be getting some things moving forward.
Yeah, we've been getting major things, just not at this, just later than everything else.
Well, I feel like that makes it less major.
Yeah, but they're still like their biggest releases of late.
True. I mean, we are getting Doom Eternal's a big deal. It would be really interesting. We did get we'll see. We'll see what happens. Because we haven't seen Elder Scrolls 6 yet. We don't know what platforms that'll come on, and that's gonna be interesting to see.
Not on the Switch.
Maybe not.
I'm not even sure if that will come to the base consoles. To be honest, that they might just make that pure next gen.
Could be.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Could be. But yeah, guys, that's the end for tonight's discussion. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Thank you for subscribing. I'm happy I apparently reached past 6,000. I'll check the numbers later, but that is awesome. Make sure to check out Brandon's channel. What About Nintendo? It is linked in the description below. Do you have anything you want to say on that? You're telling me some things. I don't know if I should go public with it or not.
I have changes coming to the channels, I'll say. I don't know exactly when, and I'm not going to say what, because if it changes, I don't want people to be like, oh, you can do the thing. But things are happening in the background. Plans. So, yeah, I mean, if you saw on my update on Twitter or Discord, you kind of know all I have to say is really that things are coming. I'll tell you eventually.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. We will see you soon. We've been getting announcements like every week, so maybe something's happening this week too. We shall see. But take care for now. See you later.
Bye, guys.